Can you hear us now?
All right. How about now? Like
based on the old cell phone commercial thing.
All right. Yeah. Can we? How about now? Does that work? Auxiliary audio. Let's try. Well, that was auxiliary, so let me try this one. Are we good now?
We're good now. I hear you're good now from Mark. So. All right.
All right, let's take a step back, folks.
All right, let's start over.
Why did nobody tell us we were on mute?
You know what? I had to
problems controlling the volume of my voice.
All right, you know what? I had to do an update on this thing not long ago, and I guess not all of the settings transferred, and I should have checked that beforehand. So
I hit cancel. Oh my god.
No.
You didn't change anything.
Yeah, I know that, but
All right.
all
Quick
right,
introductions. We're people. Let's move on.
all right. Let's start over again. Hi, folks. How are you tonight?
We're good. How are you?
Oh, we're just doing wonderful.
Good evening, YouTube land.
Good to be here. We're totally editing out the first 7 minutes of this, by the way.
Oh great, we have a turn it up already.
Well, that's Mr. Matt. Do we take him seriously or no?
I like this guy. Let's listen to him. Let's turn it up to 11.
Don't viewers have their own volume dials?
Yeah, well. All right. For the 11th time tonight, we have Bill and we have Steve.
Alps.
Whatever you want to be called
Alps.
by. AKA Alps. We've got Anthony. We've got David Golub of EastCoastRoads.com. We've got Erica, who was unfortunately here also.
I snuck in, the door was open.
Yeah, the door was open and she came in. I don't know how that happened. But,
It was locked when we get in here.
Yeah, I know, we had to beat on the door.
You're not nearly as special.
Yeah, so
Well, we're special ed, but that doesn't count.
We are doing a show. We're going to try to do a show tonight.
Don't touch my beer.
On I-476. But you got to put your beer in a place where it can't be touched.
Wait a minute, is this one yours or mine?
That's got to be
empty.
That one's empty. This
well,
one's mine.
that's got to be yours because mine's over here. All right, so I-476 is
There,
the
now mine's
subject.
too.
Would you like another one?
Yes.
Why don't you go get one while we talk about 476?
Why don't you go do that for the next 2 hours?
Gotcha. Who else wants a beer?
Yes.
Who else wants cheesecake? There's a whole cheesecake in there.
Dude,
Who else wants to talk about Interstate 495 in Massachusetts as the second
I
longest?
promise you.
No, screw you.
Okay.
I promise I'm going to eat the cheesecake. Don't worry.
All right.
We live on the third longest, so go for it.
All right. Well,
Steve, you want beer?
All of us want beer.
yeah, everybody wants beer.
All right.
Except me.
Well, I already did the announcements before I realized that we were on mute, so let me run through these again real quick. Sorry, guys. YouTube, I'm in San Antonio for the time being. Go check it out. I won't give you the long version this time. Gribble Nation, Doug did a podcast about the Quebec Eastern Townships. Woo!
And we argued about pronouncing things in French.
That's right. So go check that out.
You're welcome.
And Gribble Nation is going to be unleashing a lot of new content in the coming weeks and months, so be sure to keep an eye out for that.
Or what do you want, the other one?
Are we okay over here? Like, what are we doing?
It's just this time of the month. He's
So,
fine.
someone brought closed beers and not an opener.
He
Start with
has
that.
opener.
Yeah, but there isn't an opener here, though. Like,
Steve has an opener.
Let's talk about Aaron Judge.
but
Jesus.
the openers
Speaking
are
of
the
openers.
openers are over there, though. That's the problem.
Oh.
I don't want to have to get up to get
They're
them.
here, they're just not here.
Yeah, they're just not.
Okay, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge is an opener. He's been hitting lead off.
No,
Yeah.
he's going to number 2 tonight.
Is he? Oh, interesting.
Is the lineup out for tonight?
That's all I see so far.
Wow. You know, it's very rare that. What are you doing?
I'm opening beers.
No, you're not. You're like reaching your arm in my way, so I can't see my laptop screen.
This is way better than when we started the first time.
There,
we
can
were
you
on
see that?
topic.
Yes.
The audience can probably guess what he probably just saw.
It was a gesture with a particular finger.
Yeah,
The clitoral finger.
the New Jersey salute. Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
Yep.
It's not often that you see somebody as a leadoff hitter hit a lot of home runs, but this gentleman here happened to hit 62 of them this year. And he set the American League record with 62 home runs. I really like this graphic on the right that CBS Sports put out a couple weeks ago. The three gentlemen in American League history to hit 60 home runs or more in a season, and they all happen to be wearing pinstripes. Imagine that. And this is a really neat statistic too. If you look at Aaron Judge's home runs from this year and just how he hit them to every possible place on the ball field,
Pretty even spray.
yeah, that goes to show what a solid pure hitter he is at his fundamentals.
Oh, upper right.
Yeah, if you look at that graphic in the upper right, yeah, that's his home run spray from this year.
Gorgeous waterfall.
Yeah, so congratulations to Aaron Judge for setting the American League record in home runs this year. Obviously,
And the MLB record for non-steroid induced home runs.
well, I made the comment. I made the comment a little while back that he's the first one to hit more than 61 home runs and won't have to testify about it later.
Yes.
So, hopefully that remains the case for.
Which is also a factual statement, so it works.
It is, yeah. So, however you want to take that. Whether you believe it is the American League record. No person in American League history has hit more, period. Or whether you're a purist and believe that he deserves to be the all-time home run single season benchmark. Obviously people will be debating that for a long time. But it was really neat to watch him join the ranks of Babe Ruth and Roger Maris this season with the year that he had.
The other thing worth noting is that even if you're petty about 154 games versus 162, he did hit number 60 by game 154. So even in 154 games, he tied Ruth. He made it to 60.
Absolutely. Which is what Roger Maris could not say that, right? I think he was on 59 by game 154 or something like that.
Maris took until the very last game of the season to hit number 61.
Mantle forever, Maris never.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was that event in Yankees history. Now, of course, we're just waiting on the Yankees to flame out in the playoffs so that we can only just remember the 62 home runs as the memorable part of this season.
2001.
But what now?
2001.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
He's just mumbling.
Wanted to take a second to mention somebody in my life who passed away not too long ago, like within the last month. My dad's Aunt Fran. Who really played a part in his childhood, helping raise him. She passed away about a month ago at the age of 89. She was a very visible part in our family. Me growing up, I remember very vividly visiting her house as a kid. These pictures you see across the top here on this slide were taken by her roughly around the year 1969. I don't know exactly when they were taken yet, although I am kind of looking into that as we speak. What you see in these pictures are the construction of the New York State Route 201 freeway through Johnson City, New York. She lived in a house, 41 Enwell Street in Johnson City. It was the first house that wasn't demolished within the right-of-way of the 201
And
freeway.
we know someone who lived on Enwell Street, actually.
Do we?
And at one point, someone in the road community who actually lived on Enwell Street.
Really? Someone whose first name starts with a D?
Perhaps.
Okay. I'm going to have to follow up with you on that.
Give it some heart.
All right. Okay. Well, anyway, these pictures were taken around 1969. I think that, if she lived today, she would certainly be considered a road geek. She loved watching construction projects. She owned a sports car, actually, back in the day. And so she loved driving. She loved traveling in general. And I am thoroughly convinced that my love of roads and bridges and whatnot is inherited from that branch of my dad's family. So, hats off to her. I've been making trips up that way, up to the Binghamton area, somewhat frequently in the past month or so. And for other reasons too, not just because of the the passing and the burial and whatnot. There are other things that I'm tracking right now that I hope to be able to report to you guys in future weeks that I think you would find interesting, especially with Veterans Day coming up. So there's that to look for as well. She also loved to keep track of the construction of the replacement of the Tappan Zee Bridge down in Westchester in Rockland County, New York. This is a little article that she saved from the year 2017, and she knew full well that I was involved heavily in that project. In her later years, she wasn't healthy enough to make the trip down to see it in person, but she was definitely one of our biggest Tappan Zee Constructors fans from a distance at her nursing home in Johnson City. So, to her and all of her friends and my family that I've been connected with or reconnected with for the first time in a while up that way. Cheers to all of you. Cheers to Aunt Fran. God bless her. I'm sure she would be watching this show if she knew it existed and all that. So, cheers to all of you.
Silence in memoriam.
All right, we're good. The thing about it is that she didn't want a funeral. She didn't want anything all too special. She made her arrangements beforehand. So
my uncle's like that.
Yeah, she didn't want anything special.
He died at the same time. So.
We had a little burial ceremony for her, and that was enough.
Okay.
And that was sufficient for everybody. So, but to the bridge lover, one of the bridge lovers on my dad's side of the family, I would like to dedicate this episode.
Really nice.
Tonight's show, as I said, we're covering the length of I-476. It runs exclusively through Pennsylvania. It is the longest auxiliary interstate in America as of the taping of this recording in 2022. It begins in the suburbs of Philadelphia and runs up to the Wyoming Valley region of northeastern Pennsylvania. So you can see that's the route that we're going to cover tonight.
It was not born and raised down in West Philadelphia. Spent most of its days as Pennsylvania line.
Well, yeah, I guess most of it did, right? Yeah. So that is our introduction tonight. If anybody has any questions that they would like to get out to the peanut gallery here,
Too early for questions.
I can't imagine that people would have that many. Here's a little bit of a trivia question. Who knows what bridge that is?
It's the one up at the northern end.
Hey!
It's the one with the PA Turnpike 476 Keystone underneath.
It also
The
has
one that we stopped under at the Scranton meet back in 2015.
It also has both a sheets and a Krispy Kreme in its shadow. So
Yeah, it does, right?
So it is a great place for particular types of food.
That is true. So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing tonight, and glad we could have you guys with us on this Saturday evening spectacular. And if anybody can tell me what that means in Ukrainian, you guys win the.
I know the second word.
I can say, yeah, it definitely says Slava Ukraini.
There you go. See,
But,
it's not that hard.
My ability to recognize letters doesn't mean my ability to translate it.
Yeah,
It means Ukraine is
okay.
a Slavic country. So
Is that what it means?
Wait,
the anti-Russian people would probably say that.
wow.
It's like glory to Ukraine.
I think you're right, actually.
There we
Yeah,
go.
see, this is why we had this guy on the show,
Yeah.
so that he could translate foreign languages for us.
Yeah, foreign languages that I don't speak.
Even better.
No, but we all just spoke it, so.
Yeah.
Ah, jeez. All right. We've kept you waiting long enough.
Yay.
Video.
Let's watch this for the next hour and 48 minutes.
Let me mute the sound on this first.
We want to hear the news broadcasts.
No.
No, you don't want to hear the ambient background noise here.
There'll be a lot of droning of tires on pavement.
So why, this is actually starting at, oh no, we're starting on 95.
All right, so...
Ignore this part is awful.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with the fact that this part of 95 is awful.
It really is. It needs to be
Wally
5
doesn't
lanes.
realize that Panini is already plural.
This needs to be 5 lanes each way. It really does.
It really does, right? Like,
Yep.
if you think about it.
Well, because it's
I-
Pennsylvania, you're lucky to have 3.
And it's 55 miles an hour.
Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to
Rarely
do
do you
this.
get to go 55.
So I wanted to do this show for a couple of reasons. One is to kind of tie a bow around Philadelphia. we've talked a lot about Philly this year. Obviously, we had the weekend-long meet there in August that was very well attended. And this was part of the Metro that we didn't really touch on all that much. Across the 2 days of the meet, we didn't include any mileage of 476 on the tour at all. And so this is a part of the Metro that I would like to cover for you guys a little bit and kind of give you a little bit of an by the way kind of treatment to before we finally move on to other things in the coming months or so. The other reason I wanted to do this is because when I was really young, this was a way that I would. Well, I wasn't driving at the time, but I traveled. At 4 years old, I'm not driving yet, right? But
Why not?
Yeah,
By
yeah,
age 5, I was driving down the driveway.
See, but you know what? I actually was probably doing the same thing. But this was the route that I would take with my parents up to Binghamton from Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we would do like a triangular trip where we would go down to Wilmington and then go up to Binghamton and then go back home. So this was the way that we would go. And I do have some things to say about that as we go on tonight, but I do want to kind of say that
Now I'm curious what that third point is.
we're covering a few different things here tonight. The Philadelphia meet, kind of giving some closing thoughts to that, and then also, bringing some of the Binghamton
traffic.
I was going to say
Binghamton heritage into
How
this
did
as
you
well.
drive this on a day without traffic? And then I saw this and I was like, wait, okay.
Well, you know what? It wouldn't be a trip up the Blue Route without a little bit of traffic, right?
This is not nearly as bad as 7 days of the week, 24 hours a day.
A road that was built with only 4 lanes is a compromise with NIMBYs. So
Yeah, so the Blue Route was, I believe it was the last of the interstate corridors in Philadelphia to open. Even though it was one of the first to be planned.
Did it post-date 676? It's a question.
I think
so.
Yeah, I think the Mid-County Interchange was finished afterwards.
I think you're right.
So the Blue Route had been on maps since the 50s. And the reason why it has the nickname the Blue Route in Philadelphia is because in the 50s and 60s, when it was being planned, the planners in the metro area took out a map and they creatively colored different potential alignments in different colors. The red route was painted in red on the map, and the green route was painted green on the map, and the route that ultimately was selected was sort of a hybrid compromise alignment known as the Blue Route. And so that is the alignment that ultimately saw construction in the 1980s and early 90s.
Yep,
One of the key things to note here, you might look at this and say, well, gee, it's a 4-lane freeway in a suburban area of Philadelphia with a metro of over 6 million people. Like, what the hell is up with that? Well, the answer to that, the easy answer is to say that the fact that this interstate even exists at all is a bit of a miracle. When you think about the opposition that it encountered during construction, or during planning rather, the fact that it was even able to be constructed at all is the miracle part of this. Not from an engineering standpoint, but from a public approval standpoint.
The last piece of this was Ridgetown to Germantown Pike, opened in 92. The last piece of 676 opened in 91.
Oh, there you go.
They were close, but this one wins
Yeah.
most recent.
And you have to say that the completion of the Blue Route and the completion of the Vine Street Expressway were the two biggest glaring pieces of the Philadelphia puzzle.
other
That
than
were
the
still
ones that still haven't been built and probably never will be.
right, yeah. But those were the two biggest glaring obstacles. Yeah.
95 took a while also.
95 was done by the end of the 80s.
95 through Philadelphia was done by the end of the 70s.
No, the part by the airport was the last piece.
Yeah, it took...
Or the part by the
decades.
airport, yeah.
Well, a lot of roads in Philly took decades to complete, whereas New York City was done by the 60s, and
Just
if
give
it wasn't
me a
built,
one.
forget it.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to make sure this wasn't yours.
No.
You know, two-time it.
No.
I'm trying to figure out why there were two full beer bottles in front of me when I thought there was only one.
No, I didn't realize you already had a full one.
Well, I got this one here. I'm trying to figure
Keep
out.
drinking resolves this problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, see,
If
I
it
need
is one,
to.
you only have one.
Yeah,
I noted
That
double
means you're falling
fist.
behind.
Double fist is the only appropriate way to drink 2 beers at once.
You gonna say that?
Cheers.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. For those of you not sitting in my living room, yes, I just double fisted a little
Yeah,
bit.
95 finished at the end of 1985. So all
Okay.
three of these routes finished in the 7-year period.
Yeah, Philadelphia was a bit of a late bloomer. Like they built the Skookal Expressway, and that was basically it for almost 20 years, I want to say. 95 gradually came into place, and then the Vine Street was a very late bloomer east of Broad Street. Like they had built the section west of Broad, like in the 50s and 60s, but the section east of there is the part that got hung up. And then the blue route, basically everything south of the Skookal was hung up for decades.
Which is almost the entirety of it.
Yeah, right. So,
Yeah,
like
solid.
everything that you're driving right now, the 4-lane freeway we're on, that was hung up in limbo for years, and it was not known for a long time if it would ever see the light of day.
Yeah, so as we're going past media here, there definitely was some opposition from media to this.
Ian, are you listening?
Yeah. So this highway, this particular section of the highway, it exists as a 4-lane freeway today. It was proposed to be as wide as 8 lanes, I think, in the original plans back in the 60s.
And it was
Right,
definitely
yep.
6 lanes for most of it.
And the section once we get north of Upper Darby, I think it is, it does widen out to 6 lanes. But that was supposed to carry its way all the way down to I-95.
Yep.
But you'll see that there are a lot of different compromises that had to be reached in order for this to exist today.
I will note that without widening 95, as we mentioned before, it doesn't matter how many lanes this is, that was still going to be a bottleneck.
What you're talking, yeah.
Going southbound at least. Going northbound once you're off of 95. You don't
Yeah,
have to worry
but
about
it's going to
95
limit the
anymore.
traffic that can get here anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
There's other choke points in Philly to be honest.
Yeah, so you see southbound traffic on your left, because as we are heading northbound. That is fairly typical volume on a weekend. I believe this was filmed on a weekend in 2021. That is very typical volume traffic coming down from the lane drop at Upper Darby all the way down to I-95. That's about a 9-mile stretch of slow traffic. That is very typical for Saturdays and Sundays. And
Sure.
weekdays too, but let's keep things a little simple here.
Going over the interchange,
it's
if
a
you
daily
went on
occurrence.
here, which is
Oh.
the media bypass, and this is interesting in that this is a type of interchange that is far more common in some places in other parts of the world, but is not very common in the United States. It's quote unquote volleyball interchange.
New Jersey has the first one.
I didn't say there weren't others. I said it's not
Yeah.
common.
Yeah, but in our area it is.
Right. So if you had gotten off that exit, you would find yourself at a square of 4 intersections, and if you wanted to get on one going either way, you'd have to either make a right turn or go straight left and then straight again, depending on which you're
Right,
going.
all the ramps. It's a diamond interchange for both roads, and only the ramps intersect. Pioneered by New Jersey, along with the roundabout.
So basically a volleyball interchange is a 3-level interchange where the 2 intersecting highways cross on the top and bottom levels, and then you have an intermediate level that is, for argument's sake, let's call it a roundabout with traffic signals at each corner.
It's only,
And
it's only
that's
round-
where
it's a
all the
roundabout in New
ramps.
Jersey. It's
There
Well-
are versions where it is in fact a roundabout.
Yeah, but you have all the ramps come together on that second level, and the inner workings of that second level are that it functions as a roundabout or a traffic circle.
And
kind of
Texas
thing.
will do this if they're building 2 highways and they're not all the way there yet. They'll start with this and then later build the direct ramps.
There is a lot of that in certain parts of Texas, like Austin. They're doing that a lot right
Yep.
now. Their
Yep.
4 and 5 level interchanges, they're functioning.
Start with 3.
Their intermediate level starts as a
Well,
volleyball like.
the thing with the Texas
section.
version is that it won't actually be isolated ramps intersecting. It'll be you get off onto the
Frontage
frontage
roads,
roads and the frontage roads intersect, and then when they build the direct ramps later, the frontage road will still be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this case, there's no frontage roads. It is just the ramps intersecting.
Right.
And that was another one of those just compromises, a way of reducing the interchange footprint.
Yeah, that's a big advantage of that kind of interchange. Yep. So it kind of serves a high volume of traffic, but it doesn't require the land takings and the flyovers that otherwise you would have to deal with.
And for the reference to my pride, it's 495 and 501 in New Jersey. That's the original Jersey Pride.
Is that one really?
Yep.
I never really thought of that
Yep.
one as.
Oh,
Okay.
it is.
Well, I'm gonna have to look that up then.
When you're on 495, you're on the bottom level. When you're on 501, you're on top, and the ramps meet in the middle, or the nice sort of roundabout. The way the traffic flows there. So
I'm gonna want Erica to fact check this.
no, it's factual. 100% factual. Sorry.
Erica,
It's
make
also
yourself
New Jersey,
useful.
so traffic
Wrong,
flows the way it
wrong.
feels like.
Yeah, I even though the ramps are supposed to stop, which in New Jersey was unheard of at the time for a circle, traffic does not stop there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Everybody
well,
just keeps going.
yeah, well, it's New Jersey, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Has traffic
I-
ever stopped in New Jersey?
Yes.
well, yeah.
Frequently.
When there's time for traffic
Yes.
studies in Fort Lee, yeah.
On 4 and 6 lane divided highways with signals, it stops every 2 intersections. Usually with significant delays.
You've never driven 23 in the morning. They actually have those lights nice and synced.
So a couple
More
of
than yes.
comments I want to chime in on here. Mark mentions correctly that well, it's not I-576, it's PA-576.
For now.
That interchange, now that it's been finally completed with US 22, is a version of a volleyball, and that it has the same 3-level setup, except the second level, the intermediate level, has stop signs. It does not have traffic signals. Although I would assume that they could come back and add signals later if traffic ever demands
as
it.
volume warrants.
I wish the medium one had stop signs because you're waiting there a long time with nothing happening.
Yeah, I think I've been through the intermediate levels of that a couple times before, and it does the
always
cycles
red.
there take a while.
It's
yeah.
always red. It's never synced right.
Yeah, so that's
Just
one.
make it a roundabout.
Y-
For all
y-
your-
it
for all
would
your
probably
budding
yeah
engineers-
it would be more efficient to do that. I
For
would
all the
agree.
budding engineers out there, if you're ever asked to design a volleyball, please design a roundabout in the middle.
I
Thank
will
you in advance.
I will
if you're ever asked to
call
design an
call
intersection,
Steve
please
at
design a roundabout.
867-5309 and he'll give you all the guidance.
No, that's
that,
Jenny.
Yeah,
You
so
know me.
you know.
AKA Jenny.
And the other point that was mentioned here is that the Blue Route could have been incorporated into a Philadelphia Beltway. Well, if you combine the Blue Route with the I-276 section of the Pennsylvania Turnpike, it kind of works. The problem is that the Blue Route is so heavy with traffic because of its suburban location that it really doesn't make sense. It's really faster most of the time to just take 95 through the city.
Well, or if you're really looking for a
Jersey
long-term bypass, the New Jersey Turnpike is it, right?
yeah,
They
so-
never had plans for a beltway that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean
The
there.
Turnpike was there first.
Yeah, I mean, even if you say that the Pennsylvania pieces of it with the Blue Route and the Turnpike were in place, New Jersey never made a concerted effort to make a complete or make a beltway of sorts
Well,
that
295.
would have, yeah, I mean, but that doesn't really tie into
Yeah,
a beltway.
just circle
at that
Turnpike 276, pay everybody nicely, and here's your.
Yeah, right. Well, the PTC would have been very happy about that, but yeah.
Well, you're right. You need an interchange with 295 on the New Jersey side to fix that now. But
No, Turnpike bypass.
Yeah, well. As we make our way north on the Blue Route,
note there are more lanes.
yes, we have picked up a third lane, as I
Less
said.
traffic, more lanes, older pavement.
So we have 3 lanes. They, as I said, this whole highway was supposed to be wider than it is, but we have 3 lanes from Upper Darby on up to Mid County at this point.
That's because these people didn't complain as loudly.
Yeah,
This was built
well,
somewhat earlier, also.
yeah, I think that this whole stretch was built around the same time. Like,
The
it was
center
just-
piece was built first. The northern and southern pieces came later.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was all decades after the 50s Interstate Act, but
There
this piece was done first.
There are pictures that I've seen online of people who were standing on some sort of overpass near the Skookal. It was south of the Skookal, and they were looking down like towards this point, like towards Villanova, and like there was this lengthy highway stub of like a mile long that was paved and everything, like going south in this direction. That just, it had to have sat there for at least 15 years.
287, okay.
287 in Jersey, you're
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah.
It had a section like that.
Yep.
24 had a section like that. 78 had a section. Yeah. Totally. Because you
See,
have
I've
a
never,
concept.
I've never asked you about the 287. What was there before they extended it? But
It ended just south of where he lives.
well, I know it ended.
Yeah,
at-
but they
it-
built the piece from 23 up, and that was just there for a while. But
You're right, but it wasn't open.
Right, but basically when you have a contract for something like this, a highway of this length is multiple contracts, your contract limit may be half a mile or a mile north of an interchange. You just build there. You don't worry about the fact that they can't use this until the next contract goes. You build it to your limits and you wait for the next one to come in.
Which you usually assume will come shortly, but sometimes it
Right.
doesn't.
Yeah, we are. I will say this for a fact, and I will say this under cover of YouTube. There is a project right now, that is going to be building a length of road that will not be open to traffic for some number of years. And
Can we get any details about
no,
that?
no, but I can say that there is one. So it is still, in fact, a thing. You build to the end of your contract, and you wait for the next contract to complete. And that's always going to be a fact of this industry.
Is this in New Jersey or is this?
I will not speak to where it is. I will only say that much. If you'll have further questions, you may ask me directly.
So I'm glad that Steve brought this up
Yes,
because
we'll
I was
discuss
recently in Buffalo, New York, and I took a drive to document the US 219 expressway at the southern part of Erie County around the village of Springville. And when they built that contract, they purposely built an interchange with highway stubs and everything because that was the limits of the contract. They were under the impression at the time that the succeeding section to the south towards Ellicottville would be built, or that contract would be let within a few years. Unfortunately for New York State, the economy went bust shortly after that, and they never actually got to the sections further south. But it goes to show what Steve is talking about, that you build a section, you don't necessarily worry about what's coming next. You just worry about what you bid on and what
That
you
is a less
agreed to
extreme
be
stuff,
built.
though. It does end basically right south of that interchange. It's not like
It ends at that interchange, yeah, right.
It's going to sit.
But they built a full.
The big thing is that the overpasses are there unused.
Oh yeah, and then there is mainline pavement that continues past that for a little bit. Yeah.
A bunch of people trying to get to 76.
Yeah. So here's the Skookal Interchange. A lot of people going to the King of Prussia Mall on this day, apparently.
Must be a weekend.
It did.
Oh, we got some
I think it
big
was.
Ultima energy here. More than one color Ultima.
It's
Fast.
green leaves, so it's not Christmas shopping. So why is anybody going to a mall?
I don't know. What else do they have to do in King of Prussia?
Yes, and here is the PA-23 cameo that we get for the day.
Greatest of all time path, yes.
That's right.
So I guess that in theory they could be going to the historical site in Valley Forge.
That
No,
will remain a theory.
no one gives a shit about that.
That will remain a
No,
theory, not a fact.
that's-
Yeah.
They could be going to any number of places, you know,
Wow.
but in fact, a lot of them are probably heading towards Philadelphia rather than away from it.
No, that's
70s,
probably-
76, yeah, like if you're getting on 76 at that point, you could be going to King of Prussia, you could be going out to Westchester,
Pittsburgh.
you could be going out to Reading, you could be going out to Pittsburgh.
Hell yeah, everybody's going
Yeah.
to Pittsburgh. Come on.
Don't
That's
forget
where
Lancaster.
it's at.
They're
going.
Most
Yeah.
of Dutch country is more interesting than Lancaster.
You would see horses and buggies lined up if they were going to Lancaster.
They're not on the freeways.
Yeah, wow.
But not if you're going to Two Mills. That's off the next exit.
So the section of 476 that we're on, this was the only section of the Blue Route that was built for a number of years. From 76 on up to Norristown, like this 3-mile section or so. This was the first section that was built in the 70s.
But the toll plaza did not. It was a small one to begin with. They greatly increased it.
I
when they
think
opened the whole
so.
thing.
I think it ran the section that they put originally was from 76 on up to either this Conshohocken exit or the
Yeah.
Plymouth Meeting exit.
It did not go.
Yeah,
it was
it
not
did-
continuous. You had to get off to get back on.
Yeah, it forced
Yeah.
you off somewhere around here, and you had to make your way to the Norristown interchange
Yep.
to make your way up to the Northeast Extension.
Yep.
And that, as Steve said, didn't happen until the early 90s.
And since I will be nice and explain my obscure references. If you've ever read a book called Maniac McGee, it is set in the
We all have. Yeah.
It is set in the fictional town of Two Mills, Pennsylvania, which is clearly Norristown, even though they don't call it that. Anyway.
Why is it clearly Norristown?
Well, because of things they talk about in the book, about how it's across the river from Bridgeport, Norristown is.
Oh my
They
God.
talk about the trolley bridge, the actual trolley bridge goes to Norristown in the real world. So,
Uh-huh.
it's Norristown.
All right, so this is straight
That's why I liked
conjecture,
this book
okay.
as a kid. Okay. Didn't realize there's roads references.
There is a method
I
to
didn't know you
Anthony's
had
madness.
such an affinity for Norristown.
I apparently did. I learned how to untie shoelaces based on that book. So.
Yeah. So
Not
right.
even
So now as we come up on the mid county toll plaza here, right? Right.
Yeah,
and-
Jews exited at the last exit.
No, we have two here tonight. You can't just judge it from me. I'm booing it.
East
Yeah.
control states.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of the original plans for the Mid-County Expressway didn't actually have that toll plaza proper there. They had the freeway dumping basically right across from where the old Mid-County Interchange from the Turnpike dumped you off because of the whole drama about not being able to use interstate funds to connect to toll roads. But,
They also
yeah,
they also
well.
had at one point a freeway 202 freeway continuing instead of ending here. So
Well, 202 would have continued across
Yeah.
the state.
yeah, so that would
was-
have affected how you planned this.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah, I'm sure this area went through many different iterations
Yeah.
over the years.
Look
But
at
we
all
have...
that, look
we
at all
have-
that extra room on the right that's not being used. You know?
Well, I mean, that's a more recent development, but yeah.
They always guess at things.
Well, the PTC often guesses wrong. But speaking of the PTC,
Ooh, 70.
welcome to the northeast extension of the Pennsylvania Turnpike,
former State Route 9.
which Steve is getting to see for the first time in a long time because he doesn't like toll roads.
I did it once.
Um,
the
They
first
would have
time.
had to. No,
Correction, the first time.
everybody has to clinch once.
Yeah, well, I would hope so.
I think this section was still only
Did
4
you actually
lanes
pay
when I
the
drove
toll?
it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
The northeast extension runs 111
Okay.
miles
Like,
between
what am I
the
looking at here?
Mid-County Interchange in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, and the Northern Terminus Interchange at Clark's Summit. It is signed in its entirety as part of Interstate 476, which is a somewhat recent development that we should touch on. It was historically part of Pennsylvania Route 9 until it was decided that the interstate designation should be extended further north to include the entirety of the northeast extension.
Mid-90s or so.
I think it was
Yeah.
mid to late 90s,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
because the only place you'll see remnants of 9 is on button copy. So that dates it.
Well, which is mostly gone now, right?
Yeah,
There's a couple.
it was-
you saw one on this when you just got past the toll plaza. There was button copy overhead.
the key thing is that it was not that many years between that and the changeover to mile-based exit numbering, which happened in 2002 or so?
One.
Yeah,
2001.
yeah. It was
Yeah,
the mid-90s when this got changed.
So
Yeah, I
right,
think
so
that's 95.
originally, right, the Pennsylvania Turnpike had sequential exit numbers that went from the Ohio line to the New Jersey line, and then the Northeast Extension just continued the sequential numbers from where the main line left off, but jumped back over here and it kept counting up.
Water?
There's still some in there.
When they converted it to mile-based numbers, they
You have enough water?
made a sane decision to
You do.
use Interstate 476's
You want
mile
it?
markers. So
You
it did
drunk
not
here?
start at 0 for the Northeast
Yeah.
Extension, but it continued, 476.
But as a
Zero.
result, they had to make sure it didn't overlap the main line exit numbers. So, for example,
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of.
I think
fuzzy
there's
there.
two exits. And I think 31 is one of them for that matter.
December when I don't
where they
know
rounded
about
it
the season.
An additional mile so that it would be a different number.
Yeah, they
Just to
fudged
make it
slightly.
easier.
Officially,
Right.
Because at the time people would have still needed
Have
to
little
take
races in
tickets
November,
if they were
but
paying
about
cash,
Right.
and you wouldn't want them to have to be like, well, which exit 31?
Right.
So,
Right.
so they made sure they were different, and the exits are far enough
Not
apart
gonna
that they were
free
able to
release
do
that
that.
Yeah, 1 mile won't make that big a difference if they're spaced every several miles.
Yeah, there's also when you're going on to the blue route from the Turnpike, it's exit 20, numbered off of the Northeast Extension. So whether you're coming
No, I'm
at it, coming south on the
Sorry, Mr.
Northeast
Lachey.
Extension, or in either direction on 276, it's exit 20.
I'll eat that so you
So
don't have
if
to.
you're on 276, the exit numbers are up in the 300s. Then you see exit 20. Then you go back to the 300s.
Yell if you need help.
Goofiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this section, right, it's 6 lanes now, but it was widened within the past, decade.
Yeah, this is the last 5 years or so.
Yeah,
this section.
just like a lot of the 76 main line.
Yeah, so I want to
say this was 4 lanes when I clinched it.
Let's touch on the widening. So the PTC has undergone a long-term capital plan for the Northeast Extension, which includes 6 laning the entire highway between Mid-County and Lehigh Valley. As of right now, the widening is complete to a point just north of Lansdale, which is exit 31.
And it'll probably remain that way for quite some time.
Well, construction is already underway on the section north of there to Quakertown. Which
Still
is
not
exit,
gonna hold my breath.
which is exit, I think it's exit 44 if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
We'll see.
So that is underway. They're currently replacing bridges and they're clearing rights of way for the 6 laning of that. And then ultimately the plan is to bring the 6 laning all the way up to Lehigh Valley at some point in our lifetime.
Right, and the key thing
So-
here is that
Again, not going to hold my breath.
well, the thing is that the reason this happens more so than it does on PennDOT maintained roads is because they have tolls to fund it. So, you get something for paying.
Well, you know what? The PTC is actually moving faster than PennDOT, depending on the project that you're talking about.
And that's in spite of
Yeah.
having to give a whole ton of money to SEPTA.
Yeah, well, this is why I'm upset that CPZ has to go on a trip to Finland coming up and not be here this weekend because we could
That's
just
his
we could
call.
just give him the microphone and have him talk about Act 44 for the entire.
But that's,
well, let me tell you about Act 44.
that's almost running out. I've heard that we're going to revert to normal soon.
Well, so they've
They'll
stopped.
keep the toll rates.
So they've stopped the transit subsidies, but they have the bonds to pay off.
Right.
So that's why the tolls have to keep going up still.
Yeah.
Although I think that
It's going to normalize a bit.
it's starting to level off, sort of, but we still have a ways to go with that.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, is that once the original thing with Act 44 is that they were supposed to add tolls to I-80, and that was supposed to be where the money was supposed to come from, but then they did not add tolls to I-80. So,
Can we talk about Act 44 in general for a second?
course we
Just in
can.
case people don't know what it is. Like, Act 44 was an act in the Pennsylvania state legislature that required that a certain percentage of the PTC's toll revenue
it was
would
a
be...
certain amount of money, actually. Not
It wasn't a percentage?
It was a fixed amount of money.
Okay, but a certain amount of money was siphoned away from the PTC's revenue to prop up Pennsylvania state transit authorities. So this includes SEPTA in Philadelphia. This includes the Allegheny County Port Authority in Pittsburgh, which is a favorite of CPZ's, by the way. And there were others sprinkled around the state as well. But basically, the PTC wasn't allowed to keep the toll money that they generated.
Correct.
In that it was siphoned away to these transit authorities, and so that they weren't, the PTC wasn't able to prop up their own capital program and keep up with their own capital expenses. They had to siphon away that money to these transit agencies. And over the long haul of the last 10 to 15 years, that has proven to be a complete disaster for the PTC.
Partly because, it's forced them to raise their tolls a lot. This is why the Pennsylvania Turnpike is known as such an expensive road now. But a lot of that money has just been given elsewhere. One thing that did help somewhat make it a less even worse disaster is that they did reduce the annual payments. So it's not as much money as it was originally going to be, but it's still there, and they are still writing checks to SEPTA is the largest one. Yes.
Isn't it like 5% a year that they're raising the tolls at?
Yes.
Something like that.
That sounds way too low.
That's the cash increase.
The cash, well, okay.
And
toll
that's
by
the
plate
other
now.
thing they've been doing is right now it's toll by plate. They're all cashless, but they've been raising those rates a lot harder than they've been raising the Easy Pass rates. So as expensive as the Easy Pass rates are, if you do not have an Easy Pass, God help you.
It's basically double if you don't have Easy Pass. So to drive the whole Pennsylvania Turnpike right now is around $55. Without Easy Pass, you're spending well over $100.
Wow.
Welcome.
We passed the Lansdale Interchange just now. Can I just mention a little bit about Lansdale real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I almost moved to Lansdale as a kid.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you didn't.
Well, so my dad was offered a job.
You had 49 better
down that
states
way.
to choose, and you did.
So my dad was offered a job there, when I was in 7th grade, and I could have moved there. It ended up, but there was some sort of snag with the negotiations of the terms of his agreement, and so he backed out of it. And so therefore I never moved to Bucks County or whatever county this freaking place is in.
You may have also noted the yellow sign denoting the Easy Pass only exit. That they did add a couple of ramps there that are Easy Pass only. All moves in that area are still possible without an Easy Pass, but there are a couple of shortcut ramps that are Easy Pass only.
That's basically what they are now, right? Because
Right,
everything
well,
is cashless.
well, now-
And the thing is, here's the thing: is that making the ramps Easy Pass only was a thing when they still took cash, because it was, we don't want to have to put cash booths here to staff them. They are now all cashless. Nobody pays cash, no matter where they get on or off, and they'll take a picture of your license plate and send you a bill if you don't have a tag. However, the Easy Pass only ramps are still Easy Pass only. You will get a violation, not a bill.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that right?
I totally believe this.
Is that right?
That is right. And right at this point, there's no technological reason why they couldn't change that and just start sending people bills instead, but they haven't.
So if I took the mainline Turnpike out to Phoenixville and got off at that interchange, that would be Easy Pass only still?
Yes, and if you did it without
Wow.
an Easy Pass, you would get a violation notice in the mail.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. See, can we focus on that for a second? Like, is in the age of the conversion to cashless tolling, isn't that silly to
It is.
do that?
But they do legitimately
It's
have to
beyond
convert.
silly. It's absurd.
But they do have to convert the technology legitimately because they're not equipped to read the right way, but they have to be able to read license plates to send you the
Yeah,
violation.
I mean,
so this is stupid. Yeah.
I understand that you have to
Again,
convert
absurd.
I understand that you have to convert the interoperability to a situation like that, but when you're designing an interchange like that, wouldn't you have done that anyway?
Well,
I mean, I understand that I'm talking about the PTC here, so I'm not. I shouldn't
part of the other
have
thing
my
to consider
expectation
here-
level shouldn't be that high, but I'm just throwing that out there.
part of the other thing to consider here is that the PTC's plans to go cashless were done in a decidedly rush in the spring of 2020. So it was kind of hacked together real quick to avoid human-to-human interaction at the toll payment point.
Yeah, well, that's true too. Yeah.
It was not actually done properly per se, but it is still in place. They haven't gone back.
They're not going back. That guy's going back.
That guy's going to be
Didn't
hanging
they
out
at
for a
least
while.
at first use the violation system to do that?
I think initially
They would
they
have
did.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing they
In
could
New
do.
York and New Jersey, they did. Yeah. But yeah, once they kind of were able to put a plan together, then that they were able to put a more orderly
for
system
changing
in
lanes.
place. You're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah, I changed lanes for you. Like
Change
that
lanes
is
to be able to see the road instead of just a car.
yeah.
always
See, I
appreciate
didn't
that.
like the car that was in front of me, so
You're
I
so
changed
considerate.
lanes.
Look at you.
I do
Looking
things
forward
for
to
this
today's
guy.
webinar
Why?
because
I
we're
don't
actually
know.
friends.
I mean, I don't know if you do anything for me.
And we do actually still have the third lane here. Do note,
Yeah.
even though the stripe.
Yeah, so the contract for the third lane here runs out up ahead here, but yeah. So the third laning, I mean, when I was a young kid, I remember when this was just 4 lanes. And in fact, when I originally documented this,
So now it's
back,
3. What happened?
back about 12 years ago, this was still 2 lanes all the way up this way.
Yep.
But because of the commuter influence in this part of southeastern Pennsylvania, the PTC has recognized that the Northeast Extension is really a commuter highway at this point. It wasn't envisioned as that when they designed it. How many times have we seen that highways in the Northeast are designed for like pleasure trips and stuff like that, and they're never envisioned as being...
GSP.
Every single parkway in New York.
Well, I was going to say, so many different highways in the New York Metro are envisioned as these pleasure highways, and the Northeast Extension was kind of envisioned in that same light.
Ah.
I mean, they knew that they would be
But it's
conducting.
Pennsylvania, so there's no pleasure to be derived.
Well, they knew that they would be conducting Metro Philadelphia with
Not true. You pursue your happiness there.
yeah, by going to another state.
So they knew that they would be connecting Philadelphia with the steel mill communities of the Lehigh Valley and the steel mill communities of the Wyoming Valley. But that is why they built it in the first place. Was but I mean this was the 1950s before the Rust Belt became a thing and all that stuff.
It was becoming a thing. Just ask railroad fans.
Well, we can talk about that for 2 hours if we want. But,
Yes.
No. But that was the genesis of the Northeast Extension in the first place. obviously deindustrialization happened, but at the same time, commuting from Allentown into Philadelphia became a thing in that time frame. Commuting up into the Poconos for a weekend became a thing. So, the highway kind of has always had a usefulness.
Here's an
over the
example
years.
of a contract. You can see the bridges are built to 6 lanes of width, but you're not striping them that way, and the contract runs out here.
Or were they over widened so they didn't have to close lanes?
The contract included replacing them up to this point, so they did.
Yeah, well,
That's
and,
it.
right.
Or were they over widened so they didn't have to close the traffic lanes during
No.
construction?
that helps,
we do
but
that.
that's not why.
No.
It
We
was-
do that all the time.
No.
It was ultimately
You're
done
doing it wrong.
to allow for the third lane in each direction, and yeah, you'll notice that lane did not end at an interchange. They just let it run out of the spot.
So I would like to make a mention of this point that the section that we're traveling through doesn't have any construction on it, really. I did a trip through here on one of my Philadelphia Meet scouting trips in July, I want to say, of 2022, and the PTC is well underway, in fact, in adding a third lane to this section.
Now, were they actually underway, or did they just close the lanes, let the pavement rest for a little while, and put their cones somewhere where they're
So
not doing it?
all the green that you see on both sides is gone.
Oh, wow.
Like they're actually
mileposts or trees.
the trees I'm talking about.
Okay, good.
Like,
Ruined
you know,
themselves.
yeah.
Got it.
I didn't think I'd have to clarify that, but thank you.
There's mileposts, yeah.
I know what you meant.
Well, I know you know.
I mean, all
Yeah.
of the green should include.
I don't have to explain these things to you.
That's fine. I like the point.
Because I've concluded
Good.
Pennsylvania
I
does
need to
like to
stretch my
let the
legs a bit.
pavement rest a
So
little bit.
what they're doing right now is they're clearing the right of way. They're replacing the bridges, which some of these bridges date to the late 1950s, which is when the Northeast Extension was first built. You can
They
see.
can't
I
just
think.
widen
Ooh,
I think one of these is up ahead here.
that's cool.
So
Yeah,
they
this-
have equipment.
I assume they're going to build this to accommodate 6 lanes in the future.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not the only agency to think of that
Yeah.
potential future widening because the bridge. If
Yeah.
they
Well,
build
we
it
know
right-
of multiple different
Yeah,
agencies.
but the
yeah.
bridge, if they build it right, will be in place for 100 years. That's now a standard that a lot of agencies are using for, especially for these routine bridges. If it's going to be in place 100 years, you expect traffic to grow significantly in 100 years. So even
What?
if you're not going to, at least 50. 50 is when they do rehab of the deck and superstructure. Often they'll do it halfway through the service life. But you can see here they built it to 6. I fully expect that's the idea. Is they expect within 50 years this may need widening, and therefore build it wider now, and that way you don't have to touch it within 50 years, rather than that become a constraint.
There are some
Yeah.
agencies that have actually looked into lengthening existing bridges instead of replacing them.
Yeah.
Splicing some,
Yep. But that's
splicing
if
some
they're
additional steel to the end and going, it was
I mean,
100
that's
feet
been
long,
done.
now it's 150 feet
Yeah,
long.
that's been done.
I
Yeah.
assume that's if the bridge is relatively new, and that's a cheaper solution
You'd
than
be
rebuilding
surprised what some agencies have tried to do that with.
it. You do not have to name a single agency, but it's
I
interesting.
am not
to do.
going to name an agency.
None of the
There is
agencies
a,
I work with do that, but you maybe
Yes,
it's a different
we
one. That's
we
fair.
all
You guys found the
those of
contract.
us who are civil engineers in this room work on behalf of certain toll agencies. I won't name
Or not,
which
or
And
ones.
not
not
toll.
toll agencies.
Yeah.
And so we kind of have an
I'm glad we're
understanding
both
of how
here though,
these
because we have
agencies
different
operate.
perspectives
Yeah.
to share about this. So it's-
Absolutely.
There is a notable location on the Long Island Expressway where a branch of the Long Island Railroad had its bridge spliced when the expressway was widened.
Nice. Railroads
Railroad's
are
impressive.
treated differently often.
Yeah, railroad is badass.
You don't want
definitely.
to divert traffic from a railroad. You don't want to have to realign them or anything. The less impact you have to a railroad, the better.
You really, some of them you can't divert.
On the subject of railroad,
So
is the,
so that often will influence how you treat it.
on the subject of railroad, real quick, is the third track open yet?
Where
The third track of the main line.
It's open.
I have
Is
no
it-
idea
is
what
it
you're
open
talking
now?
about,
Or
okay.
something.
Long Island.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Is that a
And-
country or?
That was a huge project
It's
that my
live.
company is somewhat involved in, but I haven't kept up enough with it, so
Must
I
be a
don't
long
know.
one.
So
Yes.
Yeah, so speaking of that project, they did that such that train service never had to be stopped for more than 48 hours over a weekend.
That's cool.
That's what we try to do in general, especially if it's going to be a passenger line. You want to
Yep.
limit it. But
it's always yeah.
freight lines. It depends on the freight line. Sometimes you get a week. Sometimes you get a day.
We have
It's
one project
always-
where you get to do like 4 hours every night because they're trying to just do
Yeah.
it like that.
Totally.
time
Between
that-
trains.
Yeah.
Totally understandable.
It's
rough.
always so fascinating to see how these projects are staged.
And that'll change
And it's
how
not-
you want to implement it based on what you're able to do to build it.
Exactly.
The other thing about
Kicking the can down the road, somebody else's problem in 10 years. It's perfectly fine.
the other thing about building overpasses long enough to accommodate future widenings is that that itself can become political. If there is a lot of opposition to the idea of widening, you will see people clamoring and insisting that if you're rebuilding that bridge, no, you may not build it wider because we want to ensure that you can never widen this road.
I have never.
Do not enable this.
I have
There
never
are
dealt
some
with this.
other
You
arguments
don't
you
work
can
in
make.
Connecticut much, do you?
Connecticut must be a different.
So there are
None of my
some,
clients have ever had this be an issue at all.
and there are some other arguments you can make
Well,
about
no,
why
that's
to make the
because you
bridge
deal with
longer
people
that you
with
can
real
tell
estate.
them, other than that it's for future widening. There are some structural reasons it's easier to put the new abutments behind the existing abutments.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get a wider bridge without it being for a widening. It's just that's how
Much
you need to
easier
build
construction, yeah.
it. Yeah.
Totally. But you can conveniently locate it 12 feet beyond. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you need to avoid those piles. Like you don't know where they are in the existing
Yeah.
condition. Maybe they battered them the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of future widenings, does anyone know with those overpass replacements that they did on the Hutch, have those been built wide enough to bring it up to 3 lanes?
There's no way the Hutch is getting widened.
They're not adding a third.
I know the
one.
ones you're talking about, and
Yeah.
and yes, they clearly have the space, but I don't know that I wouldn't expect that to ever actually
It
happen.
is never happening.
Like
No.
if you've been on the Hutch and you see the overpasses at I think it's Merritt Avenue.
No,
no,
I'm
he's
talking
talking
about
further south.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
Because those have been widened
the
up
second
for
line
years.
and the cross
separate
town.
thing. Yes, Merritt Avenue. When that was widened, when that section of the road was rebuilt in the '80s, it was originally supposed to be widened to 6 lanes. Then it wasn't, but they did build a few of the overpasses wide enough for it anyway. More recently, down in Mount Vernon is where David's talking
Okay.
about,
Yeah.
where they have some new overpasses that are wider and clearly can fit 6 lanes underneath them. But I don't.
It's never gonna happen.
I don't
With
expect.
with the Hutch, given how narrow the old bridges were, they may just be doing this so you don't hit the bridge if you're a tiny bit offline.
Or for site clearances.
Yeah,
they don't want
it-
to cattle sheet
Right,
drivers.
right. It may entirely just be for safety reasons rather than intended widening.
The point is that the provision is there should it ever be used. You're right.
Yeah. The straighter a road is, the more likely a widened bridge is for a future widening. When it curves like the Hutch, don't expect it.
And it could also be the structural engineers. We don't particularly want to build that bridge with really skewed abutments. If I can make your bridge a little bit longer and make those 90 degrees, I'm going to.
Yeah.
This is why I want to hire you. See,
See, this is why we have Erica on the show to give us more practical information.
About bridges, not the
Yeah.
roads.
I love
Well,
that
I mean,
we
but,
have
it's-
two competing engineers on this. It makes it a lot of fun.
You know, we need
We
to
all
make
know
this
what
happen
matters.
more often. I think. Once a week, starting after
We'd
Thanksgiving.
be a really cute threesome together. Yes.
I'm so out.
Yeah, I'm not commenting on that at all. So
You guys
let's just move on. The next interchange on the Northeast Extension is Lehigh Valley, which is I-78.
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
Wow.
US 22.
Well,
It once
I
was.
think there are I-78 shields on the exit
Makes sense.
signs.
It's US 22.
It should be
to
Though the ramps
I-78.
do directly dump you onto US 22.
And there was old button copy there once upon a time. Not too long.
Well, and there were a few other things there too, as we've talked about off the air. Yeah. The
personal things. Okay.
the PA 476 stuff.
Oh, I don't remember seeing that here. We were talking about the real location.
All right.
Are you gonna point to where things are on? the
Why
TV?
don't you guys vamp for a minute while I disappear for a sec?
Quick, lock the door.
Everybody, your host is going to defecate now.
No. So the thing with
I don't have a
Connecticut
key.
is that this became.
You do it with a screwdriver.
Right. So over in Connecticut, there is an extremely controversial road called US 7. And if you ever
CT11.
if you've ever attended a public meeting about doing anything with that road, yeah, you will have some fun people demanding some fun things.
I would love to complete the I-95 interchange. What is the status? Or the Merritt Turnpike, Merritt Parkway. I need to keep drinking. Sorry.
Dan's got 2 beers here, so.
Yep.
Good luck with that.
No, they
Meanwhile,
they
we're-
did propose recently to complete the Merritt Parkway interchange with US 7.
And in typical Connecticut style, it's been proposed about 5 times, and one
Yeah.
of them actually started getting constructed until the court order stopped it. None of the others have.
Yeah, no, but part of that completion would also be downgrading US 7 from the freeway.
One of the proposed alternatives, yes. And
I
that's
thought the winning one.
one of the proposed alternatives. And listen, there is no winning alternative until shovels go in the ground. Okay.
So never in Connecticut. Got it. Okay. Well, they did complete one interchange reconstruction, so I guess they do sometimes.
It happens occasionally.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? 95, 91 in New Haven?
All right, they completed 2. Good point.
There is a reason my company no longer works much in Connecticut.
Well, technically, the stuff in New Haven is actually 2 interchanges there.
No,
Because it's 95, 91 and 95, 34.
no, but 34.
That's all one interchange, and it's up for debate whether it's actually still 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Well,
it's not signed as 34
No, technically it's
anymore.
not 34 anymore. I agree.
Yeah.
Technically.
Anyway,
I'm
we're on
pretty
Interstate
sure it's still
476
shown
in
in state
Pennsylvania.
documents as 34.
Yeah, can we,
No, they pulled 34 back.
Note the very substandard left shoulder here.
They did pull 34 back.
Finest in Pennsylvania Turnpike back in the day construction.
And more
Yeah,
than
can
enough
we-
right shoulder, they could have just shifted those lanes.
So,
No,
yeah.
we have plenty of time to talk about other road projects.
Can
like
we,
that.
yeah, so let's focus on the left shoulder here for a second.
It's narrow. Move on.
It's Pennsylvania Turnpike Special, right?
A
Pretty
lot
much.
of old substandard
What
roads.
is it, like a 1 foot shoulder?
2 foot.
2 foot?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
It's 212, 12, 10 or 212, 12, 8. I'd have to check, but one of those.
Yeah. But yeah, that hasn't
Service
changed
access.
much over
That's
the
my
years.
exit.
Yeah, that's
They
Steve's
at least
exit.
they're smart enough that they kept the gate closed.
Yeah. I've seen the gate open there.
Yeah, me too.
Doesn't help you clinch, but it's there. But no, a lot of the mainline turnpike widening was focused on messaging, hey, we're going to come to current standards, and they conveniently just happened to add a 3rd lane when they did that. But it was mostly about improving the shoulder widths.
Yeah.
So that's what they would do up here. They would improve the shoulder widths, and oops, a 3rd lane got added all the way up to Wilkes-Barre.
Oh, hey.
Where did that come from?
Hey, gee. Where'd that come
Safety. Safety.
from? Yeah.
Got to blast away rock, just blast away the mountain. Yep.
Who needs it?
Just go West
Who do they
Virginia
think they are,
style,
West
you know?
Virginia?
See?
Yeah.
There are people in this room who have been to West Virginia who are not named me. Okay.
Has anyone in this
I
room
know.
not been to West Virginia?
Well, recently.
Yeah, okay, I haven't been that recently.
Yeah, I think 2017.
When's
was-
the
Oh.
next section of Corridor H opening? Like 2047 at this rate?
They have
Probably
one
the
actually
30.
under construction.
Yeah, probably it'll be complete. I think by 2040.
Oh boy.
I do think it will.
We'll all be dead by
Well,
then.
the HB will be dead by then, so.
Okay.
You know.
So the question is, which gets finished first, that or I-86?
That
Anything
Yeah.
before I-86.
I-86.
That is my-
I-86 will eventually become an interstate from the west end to the traffic light, and from the traffic light to the east end.
Yeah, I hear ya.
Yeah.
What traffic?
Traffic light or flasher?
Traffic light, what are you talking about?
Well, whatever those acgrades have left, that.
There is no traffic.
There
lights.
are no more
Okay.
traffic lights.
But there are acgrades.
In Hale Eddy, yes.
There
They're
are,
staying.
yeah.
They're
Okay.
staying.
And I agree with you, by the way, that the traffic.
Lehigh Valley, yes. There's not even a 2 on the 78. They just have it there.
See, that's what I thought when I
The
saw
sign
it.
misleads you. The interchange.
Yeah, there is no
No.
278 in Pennsylvania, exactly.
Whatever. No, but the noteworthy point there is that section of US 22 freeway, which was built to be US 22 freeway, was at one point designated Interstate 78.
No, it was built as a. Well, okay, yes, you're right.
Yes.
It was built as 22, then the interstate system came around, and then they realized New Jersey was never going to satisfy it.
Well,
They
New Jersey
realized-
wasn't going to build their section.
They also
yeah.
realized that frigging hill in Easton was nowhere near standard.
But if New Jersey had built the freeway, the whole thing would be 78 despite the 30-mile-an-hour curve.
Probably.
So it would have been grandfathered. It would have been stuck, and we would have been stuck with one interstate.
Dear
instead of
Lord,
two.
we
I mean,
would have been
what's the
stuck with a
slowest speed limit
30-mile-an-hour
on an
curve on a
interstate?
main line.
Yeah, but it also would have only been 4 freeway lanes through that area instead of 10.
I know. Well,
So,
that's,
we'll
that's,
take it.
That's
Right.
But what is the slowest speed limit they're allowed to put on an interstate?
If you ask Massachusetts, 15 at the toll
What?
plaza.
Okay.
I went 75 and a 15 on I-90 once because we're approaching the toll plaza, And they posted 15 like a quarter mile from the Plaza, and I wasn't ready to slow down yet.
Okay, what if you're not in Massachusetts?
Well, also the toll plazas are no longer there in Massachusetts.
Well,
But there is still that ridiculous curve on 95.
Yeah, if you discount all toll plazas, you then have to discount all ramps as well, because interstates will follow exit ramps that have very low speeds on them.
yeah.
Often those are just advisory speeds, though, like this one, exit 25 miles an hour, that is not legally enforceable.
No, it's
on
yellow.
Depends on your state.
Yeah, like, so, for example, 30 miles an hour around Dead Man's Curve in Cleveland is not enforceable, even though that is
Yeah.
it's an advisory speed limit,
Right,
but it's not
it's not
enforceable.
legally set, yeah.
Yeah, right. Even though that carries arguably 3 different interstates, but is
Yeah,
what it
speed
is.
limits posted on main lines, not at toll plazas. When you get to Little Rock, when 40 and 55 go in, there's some really low stuff. Right as they cross the bridge, they're also down at the 35
What's the speed
level.
limit on the surface streets that I-78 takes through Jersey City?
25.
There you go.
Not posted.
There's
though.
your answer, folks.
There we go. That was
There
a
is
very
no-
long-winded answer.
There is no speed limit posted that I'm aware of. On
See, when you're a road enthusiast, it takes a while to get to the answer, but I think we got to the answer.
that is a straight line diagrams thing.
Mm-hmm.
The lowest posted speed limit I've seen on an interstate that is not related to a toll plaza or an exit ramp is probably 35.
Okay.
So here's the other thing worth noting is this no longer counts since I-70 was officially truncated, but approaching the Park and Ride in Maryland, there was a 25 posted on the main line. It dropped from 65 to 45 to 25 approaching Security Boulevard.
Yeah, well, what's the speed limit through Breezewood on 30?
One could argue that
Is
that's
it
not a
30?
main line at that point, though.
It was.
Well,
it certainly isn't now.
I believe Breezewood is 35.
Yeah, I think it's 35.
Is it 30? Oh, well.
Yeah, I don't think it's 25 now.
Okay, no.
What's
We are now north of Lehigh Valley. The next interchange is Mahoning Valley.
I also want to mention I've seen 3 different colors painted steel on this bridge, and I think they need to get their shit together and pick a standard.
The
On
standard.
this bridge or bridges on this road?
Bridges on this road.
Okay.
Did I say that
Well, that
incorrectly?
probably-
They were probably
Well-
painted at different points in time.
Well, no, some of them
That's-
were red, some of them were blue, and some of them looked like weathering steel. It wasn't
Yeah, so
different.
that's-
it was
that's
direct
red.
Weathering steel is not painted red.
Right.
Weathering steel is not painted.
Sometimes the fascias are painted brown.
It's not a
Ends
thing where
on
like
it.
it changes after each interchange.
Yeah, no, it's been
Because
pretty.
that'd actually be kind of cool if you did that on purpose and had the bridge color change after each interchange.
Well,
See,
that-
imagine that if different jurisdictions like, coordinated with each other. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to paint the colors of the rainbow over the next 100 miles, and nobody's going to notice because
Yeah, well-
nobody gives a shit.
My
I would love that.
my clients have standards for what colors to use because my clients have standards.
See,
But-
my clients do too, and that's why I was commenting this did not seem to have
Yeah.
a standard.
The
Should
closest
we-
thing to that I know actually exists is the IMD subway in New York City. The colors of the tiles change after every express station.
Is that right?
Yeah,
That's pretty
I've never
cool.
noticed that.
now you know.
Do the colors
Really.
of the logo change? Because that would be something.
No, the colors of the tiles where they
It'd be more interesting if the logo changed.
the logo. No.
No, I still think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
like some of the
We wanna
lines
talk
are
about something.
consistent, some of them are
We're
not.
north of Lehigh Valley. I think we should give a little bit of an introduction to the Lehigh Tunnel at this point.
Oh,
Yeah, that is
spoiler
cool.
alert!
Spoiler alert. So the Pennsylvania Turnpike, one of the things that it is known for in the road enthusiast community is it has tunnels along its length. Not as many now as it used to have. However,
Some of
there,
which can be explored.
some of which can be
Legally.
explored still, and I think there have been road meets in the past that have explored those. The northeast extension of the Pennsylvania Turnpike system does have a tunnel of its own called the Lehigh Tunnel, which is located between the Lehigh Valley and Mahoning Valley interchanges north of Allentown. This tunnel, which we are about to pass through in the next few miles, was constructed uniquely, I would say. It was built initially as a single-bore, two-lane tunnel.
I mean, that's not unique. That's the way all the Pennsylvania Turnpike tunnels were built.
All right, quiet you. It was built as a single-tube, two-lane tunnel in the 1950s or early 60s. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but maybe somebody can fact-check me, Steve.
I lost my
And due to increasing traffic to the Poconos on the weekends and increasing traffic to the Scranton area because Joe Biden is from there, a second bore of the Lehigh Tunnel was added in the late 80s, early 90s as part of the PTC's capital program around that time. The parallel tube was opened, I believe, I want to say it was 1992, although Steve will fact check that.
Sounds right.
1991.
There you go.
All right, so I was close. So now it is a 4-lane tunnel.
1957 was the first, if you're wondering.
Okay, that makes sense. The original
57,
bore.
91, those are your years.
Okay,
Right.
so 1957 was the direction of the first bore. The parallel bore was added in 1991.
89 to 91 was construction.
Yep. And so now that tunnel is 4 lanes. And that was one of the, actually, I don't think they realized this at the time, but that was one of the major obstacles to making this highway interstate standard.
I don't think they were really thinking of that quite yet.
No, they weren't. I mean, it was still, they were still in the Route 9 stages.
Yeah, the
back
476
then,
number has to be an afterthought because this is a toll road, so therefore it was never going to be eligible for interstate funding, so it was just slapping the shield on it.
So, but the discussion about adding interstate designation must have happened right after that, though, right? If you think about the timeline,
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the impetus was to make this an interstate at all because it's always going to be self-funded. What's the point?
My theory on it is that there's never been a full-length parallel toll-free highway to supplant this as a highway connecting Scranton and Allentown and Philadelphia.
Right.
So I feel like
US
that.
611,
But that doesn't exist anymore. But so because that axis in Pennsylvania isn't served by an interstate highway. I mean, you have 81, which serves Scranton and Harrisburg. You have 78, which serves Allentown and Harrisburg.
I mean, it makes sense.
You don't have something that serves Scranton and Philadelphia.
But what does this designation really accomplish is the question.
Do we want to talk about that?
I am
Well,
curious.
it is topologically continuous with the Mid-County Expressway, so it makes sense for the one designation to stay through.
Yeah.
It does.
For that reason.
Right,
It
but-
makes more sense than I-69Q.
But the toll agency would then have to replace all the shields on their own dime. So what benefit did they see from this is the question.
I think
I'm
that,
not sure
you
it's
know
a great
what,
answer.
I think that they played the playbook of I-99 and all these other highways, and that they,
Yeah, I
they
don't-
played the economic development
I don't think
card.
this was the PTC's idea.
I'm not sure it was either, but I think they played the PTC.
No.
They
What-
played
what-
the...
You also have to realize here, whenever an interstate shield gets slapped on a road as an afterthought, a politician did it.
Well, and that might be true.
Back
Yeah.
to weather and steel.
No,
This is
it's
the-
gone. There's no more overpasses. I don't have a good answer on this one though. I'm curious what.
It is one of those things that I will say that kind of came out of left field. Like,
Yeah.
it was one of those things that kind of happened, and there wasn't like a lot of build up to it. It was just like, oh, this is I-476 now, and there wasn't a whole lot of discussion about it.
Well,
So maybe that plays towards political shenanigans. I don't know,
Exactly.
but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of a backstory between the two. Between this being Route 9 and between this now being I-476 all of a
another
sudden.
close gate. Yeah, it is worth noting too that as far as the Lehigh Tunnel is concerned, that was twinned much later than the tunnels on the Turnpike main line, which were all done by the mid '60s. So this one was basically 30 years later almost.
Yeah, I think the Lehigh Tunnel was almost an afterthought. When
Yeah,
they
well,
built
because
the
at the time
system.
it wasn't on the interstate system, and unlike the mainline tunnels, there wasn't as much traffic, so it at the time was not causing the same problems.
And this is one of the money shots of the whole Northeast Extension, where you get the whole Blue Mountain Ridge in front of you.
Drive here in
Yeah.
October.
You know what? If you travel this highway this time of year,
Yeah.
it will be a spectacular drive. I agree.
Right now it's just a line of trees, but
Yeah.
October.
In the middle of July when I drove this, it doesn't look so great, but
It's still
you know,
pretty beautiful.
It's
you can
the
tell
blue.
what it could be.
Well, you can see where the tunnel is going to be.
Yeah, that off the front of your screen.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah.
I
Well,
don't see any giant rock blasts coming up with it.
Oh, it's coming.
not a rock blast. It's a gentle surgical precision.
It's boring, is what it is.
That's why we're here. We are boring.
But the Boring Company didn't make it.
Aww.
They weren't involved.
Who bought them?
Who bought what?
You said they didn't make it, so who bought them?
Okay, so
Oh,
let's see here.
took me a second to get that one.
Oh yeah.
So, Lehigh Tunnel. Couple of facts about that. The second bore was completed in November 1991. The average length of the two bores is 4,380 feet.
What's the exact length of each? No.
Well, I'd have to do a little bit more research to figure that out.
4279.
Actually, you can kind of figure out which one is the original and which one is the parallel.
Although, yes, they look very different.
They are very different from each other. And you'll be able to tell by the approach to the two that we're going to take right now. Yeah, so they accommodate... Each bore is 2 lanes wide.
Remove sunglasses.
Remove sunglasses. Turn on headlights.
Stay in lane. Typical Pennsylvania.
It's not often that we take a virtual tour through a tunnel, but here we're going to give you a chance right now.
Let's act very garbled.
And I'm going to give you a chance to guess at which of the bores is the original, based on what you've just seen, as we enter the tunnel. As we play the tunnel game. See, normally I can listen to KYW 1060 AM out of Philadelphia, and I can listen to 94.1 WIP out of Philadelphia up
It's a
until
work in
this
progress.
point,
Yeah.
and then I go in the tunnel, and then from here on out it's...
But see, Port Authority wires their tunnels so you can hear radio stations under the Hudson while you're waiting 30 minutes to get out.
That is-
because you're in them for hours.
Yeah.
Well, and then the MTA overrides the signal by, broadcasting their own messages.
No, they did that in the beginning, but they stopped.
They stopped, okay.
Yeah. For the last many years, it's just been straight radio.
Okay, the FCC got a hold of them, I guess.
I don't know. Yeah, it was only 2 or 3 years that they actually
You're not,
butted
supposed,
in.
you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
It's against the federal rule.
Yep.
Anyway, so...
The answer to the question I asked was...
So now we're listening to 92.1. Okay.
So we entered the tunnel in northbound portal, which is the original portal. The
it's
southbound
square.
portal, the
Yes.
square portal. That's the
I'm
original.
not used to square being original over rounded.
I was thinking
The
other way.
rounded
Yeah.
portal was the second one added in the late 80s.
That's surprising.
That is correct.
Well, and the other key
Yep.
thing here is that the bore itself is not square, but they use the room above the squared off roof for ducted ventilation, whereas the southbound tunnel, the roof of the tunnel is just left bare because there is no ducted ventilation. They use jet fans instead.
So
Ah,
that's
makes
why
sense.
you want to tour the ones around Breezewood.
What?
What are those 2 tunnels?
The two near Breezewood would
Sidling
be
Hill and-
would be Rays Hill and
Yeah.
Sidling Hill.
Right.
happened here?
Because those you can go
Well,
up into
you
the
don't have
ventilation
like one of
area.
those pie
Yes,
server
and
things.
right, and this is the
got
other thing.
compromised.
All
trying
of
to
the
transfer
mainline
from the
turnpike
keg to the-
tunnels were built
I used
with
a knife
ducted
and it didn't
ventilation
have that.
originally.
I used a
A
knife
couple
too,
of them
but
have
it
now been
didn't-
modified. They've ripped the
doesn't
roof off and
matter.
put jet
Just eating your
fans
cake.
in.
That makes sense.
So they
It
look very
tastes the
different if you
same.
drive through them now.
I could totally
If
see
you drive
that.
through like
Yeah.
Kittatinny, that the
Oh,
roof's
yeah,
off.
and I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Why?
I remember when they redid the whole Lincoln Tunnel
I mean, like...
substantially. That's when I
Would you
learned
like
that
some-
tiles
would
are
you like
not
some
supposed to be
help?
dark
It
yellow.
tastes the same.
I think it actually tastes arguably better that way. Because you get them all mixed up.
I'm just gonna
Just
grab the rest of the
right.
cheesecake and shove my face.
All the
in it.
good
You
and
see
bad
it-
are mixed
you see me
together.
complain once? No.
We're talking about the absolute disaster that my pumpkin cheesecake has turned into, but...
No, the absolute disaster that the person eating it is.
Can we talk about a town that renamed itself after an Olympic athlete?
Yes, please.
Is that related at all to someone named Jim and/or Thorpe, Pennsylvania?
Might be.
How do I get a
I'm not even
town
looking
named
at the video.
itself
I
after
just
me?
need to know this.
Yes, but
Well, it
the-
wasn't
what's the
Lance
town that
Armstrong,
you're
I can
named
tell you that
after?
much.
What's
So
the
this
town
shows
you
you they're
live
not
in
planning any
Ringwood?
widening at all up here.
Erica
up this far, they
Perry.
wouldn't have
Yeah,
to.
brand new
completely
bridges.
unnecessary.
Brand new
What?
bridges,
Oh,
2
so I'll
lanes
send
wide.
them
So,
that-
yeah.
In fact, they
to
could
there.
probably do a lane reduction here with no decrease.
But at
in
least the
frontage.
left shoulders are 4 feet instead of 2 feet.
Well, that's because this bridge replacement happened.
Slight extent.
Yeah, much
Well,
Should be
recently,
10.
See, here's the thing, right? Once you get north of
78,
Allentown, there is less traffic at that point, but the traffic dropping off is not done. You will notice as we keep going, the traffic will drop off more than it already has.
This guy is about to drop off completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once you get north of Lehigh Valley, you lose the commuter influence for Philadelphia.
That
but,
sign is totally wrong.
I mean, it's got Mahoning Valley.
It's
and
supposed to
got
be
the-
mixed case, and it's not supposed to say exit only because it's a dedicated exit lane.
You know, but
Two reasons plus Clearview. Three
should
reasons.
I give you the
I think
email
it
address
does
of
put the interchange names in all caps. as
Should I give you the
though.
email address for the PTC?
And the exit only
You
thing.
know,
That's
so you could
I'm
write it
sure
down.
we have
Type
something.
thing.
Be lucky it didn't say this lane in the yellow stripe.
We're not in Delaware. What?
No, Pennsylvania does
Must
that.
exit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this lane must exit.
That's
Oh,
right.
here's 3 lanes.
Those signs are gradually going away, by the way.
I know, it's super sad.
It is.
Wilmington was one of the last places you'll find them, and that.
Dude,
project
I
is
grew
terrible.
up with those signs. Like, those are a part of me, and they're taking them away from me.
If that
It's like,
wasn't
that's
there,
bullshit.
we wouldn't be here right now.
I agree.
You wouldn't have
I would
traded
not
that
be a road enthusiast without those must exit signs
Yeah.
in Delaware. And
Yep.
that's bullshit that
Yep.
you're taking away from
All
us.
right, let's
Agreed.
call them and get you one so you can put it up here.
I would like you to get Del Dot on the phone for me right now, actually.
We'll just block that whole porch door with a sign.
I should, you know what, when they take down
No,
my
if
next...
you're going to put a sign that says must exit, you should put it over the actual exit.
But no, they're at least.
Yeah,
put it like
it's
put it like right there.
it should be 36 inches tall, just the must exit part. Won't fit.
All right, fine.
But is it 36 inches?
36 inches by 10 to 12 feet wide.
But that's what it's supposed to be.
Yes.
Are the signs actually?
It probably actually
Okay.
is.
It's pretty standard.
You know, it's not that old.
From what I've seen,
It was
the
built to
spacing,
freeways,
the
so
spacing is
that's
pretty accurate to current standards.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, I would like to
The host.
I would like to reset because we are more than an hour into tonight's presentation.
So the
I'd like
next
to-
tunnels coming up are.
But I would like to, if you've joined us late, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's I-476 presentation.
I disagree.
We are joined tonight by David Golub representing EastCoastRoads.com. Be sure to give that website a plug. He has posted pictures of my not so recent past construction sites on his site, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
600
Got
by
it.
800.
In fact, I was through Sheridan Boulevard on the way here today.
Oh, very
So There's going to be
nice.
stuff coming
Ew.
up from down there.
I'm going to come back to that in a second. I'm going to circle back to
Ew.
that. Alps, Steve Alpert is representing AlpsRoads.net. If you haven't, I mean, you know his site already if you follow my if you
Every
follow my
social
channel,
media
but-
site / Alps Roads. If that's not me, I'm not on that site.
Yes.
Is there somebody else that is on those sites?
If they are, they're an asshole. But, you know, follow Steve Alpert on his site. He does a great job with his updates and all that. Have you updated your site
No, I do a
recently?
terrible job with updates.
But I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you have updated your site recently.
No, you said I do a good job updating, and I'm.
Yes, when you update them.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
asking
good
you
luck
if
with
you
it.
did an update recently.
You win every 10 years when you update.
He does a great
Phenomenal
job.
Oh, I did a great job. Look at Ohio Route 674 on...
I have an answer to that after the presentation.
Okay, that's fair. But
Let's go to Bill of Bill Roads.
Alps...
Let's move on.
All right, so you know about David's site, you know about Steve's site. Bill does not have his website, but he is joining us tonight. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Anthony does not have a
Fives.
website either, but he is here tonight.
I
And
used
thank
to
you for joining us
87
too.
on
You're welcome.
Erica is here. She does not have a website yet.
I am working on the Instagram. It is there.
She is working on it. We will report back to you in future
It's
episodes
called.
about that.
It's there. It's ready. It's just only got 2 posts so far.
Well, don't spoil
Don't
it for
spoil
us
it?
yet.
Okay,
gonna be
got it.
RG
Okay,
Roads.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna just give us a website to a dead link, then I don't want to know what it is.
It's not that link. It's there. It just needs more content to be.
Save it for
Okay,
next time.
okay.
Save it for next time. Okay.
I'll make a big sign.
Okay. And lastly, yours truly, Roadway Whiz.
Yay!
We haven't done one of these shows in a while.
Who has a website, YouTube
We did
channel?
well. Let's get it straight here. I have a YouTube channel. I
Yeah,
don't have a
YouTube.
website.
You're right. You don't have a website. You have a YouTube channel.
This guy sitting to my right is drunk on pumpkin cheesecake. So,
Go to roadway
Right,
dot whiz.
that I was criticized because
It's
apparently
.com.
I can't cut
Roadway
it
dot
properly.
whiz.
well, I mean, judging by the appearance of it, I would say that's correct. But whatever.
At this point, .whiz is probably an actual TLD.
Exactly.
I probably could look into that. That is true.
Or
Even
road
if
dot
it is,
way
you get
slash
a
You
whiz.
see, that's the thing about having a software engineer in the room. I actually know that they're called TLDs.
So yes, and I do want to.
For those
That's
of you who
correct.
didn't know.
I do want to give a plug to Gribble
Teacher likes
Nation.
stick.
I do want to give a plug to gribblenation.org.
They're not here tonight.
Well, I'm the only representative of Gribble Nation tonight. As you know,
Yes.
I am a panelist on Gribble Nation, and I do
Yes.
work on the podcast at the Gribble Nation Roadcast, which you can find on Spotify and wherever you can get your podcasts.
Podcast.whiz.
We are kind of entering the off season, I would say, of travel. So that'll be prime time to update some blog posts, write some new blog posts, and of course do some podcasting, which I'm looking forward to doing. I would like to have some people on the podcast this coming off season, including some of the people who are in this room right now. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there to you guys right now. So we'll see what we can put together in the next few months as far as that's concerned.
Like a puzzle.
I like how you said that while Erica was out of the room.
And I would like to have certain people on the podcast. So,
It's not me, clearly.
At this moment in the podcast, Tennessee has beaten Alabama, which is something that's probably never happened in our lifetime.
Do we want to update the scoreboard real quick?
That's it.
Tennessee over Alabama. What's the score?
What? 52-49.
Is it really?
What's the last time Tennessee has beaten Alabama in football?
Was it 52-49? Holy crap.
Did you bet on that? Did you just
No,
make
but
money? Okay.
I'm just saying,
Yep.
that
A
was
lot
the
of scoring
score.
on both sides. there.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's crazy.
So we're
Okay.
passing by here the Hickory Run Service Plaza, which is named after Hickory Run State Park. And I'll just mention that state park has this boulder field that is rather unique. So if you're passing through the area, it's probably worth a stop.
Does it
I
also
would
have a
say
dictionary and a
definitely
dock?
worth a
What'd you
stop.
say?
I'd say definitely worth a stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of two service areas on the Northeast Extension. We passed the first one a few
I
miles
disagree
back.
because you have to pay a toll to get to it.
Not
So
if you go
Hickory,
through I-80.
so the two service areas on the Northeast Extension, Hickory Run is the one we're coming up on, and the other one is Allentown,
There's actually
which
multiple
is right
services.
just about a mile
No, that's
south
the
of
service
Lehigh
park,
Valley
State Park.
Interchange. Yeah.
That's
So those are the only two service areas on the Northeast Extension.
makes sense.
And right, well, then they save some resources by building only one building and having traffic cross over to the other side to use it.
That is correct.
But because it's a toll road and people making U-turns can break things, they do keep the parking lot separate so that U-turns are not
They do.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
this
you gotta
yeah.
go out the same side of the building you came in. There's doors out both sides, but you go out the side you came in.
If you are
This is
familiar
like the
with
Canadian
if you are
library in
sort of,
Vermont.
Yeah, if you are familiar with New Baltimore on the New York State Thruway, it's
Yep.
a similar idea. The parking areas are separate, although you can go in the same building.
Unlike the
same
Garden
way.
State Parkway,
but-
where you just decide.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit different,
the
but
United
yes,
States
you are
Parkway is not a
correct.
ticketed toll road. U-turns don't break anything.
Yeah, they just
U-turn.
they
You
just
can
mean that
routinely
you
enter
give
an
them
exit
more
route,
money.
please.
Here you
Yeah.
go.
See, there's something I want to add here, but I can't.
Well, it's on the New
Oh,
Jersey Turnpike. You
okay.
take an illegal U-turn. You just get
So
to
this
pay the
interchange that we're passing through right now was built originally as an Easy Pass only interchange, serving Jim Thorpe and Lake Harmony. It has recently been converted for cashless use by all vehicles.
So this one they let everyone use.
I believe
Go
so.
figure.
Yes. And it kind of
This
makes
service
sense
area's
because
coming
it
back.
fills in a significant gap in the interchange system here. I mean, there's 17 miles between Mahoning Valley and whatever the hell the next interchange is. And so they were like, well, Jim Thorpe gets enough traffic, so we'll
I guess
just
they
give
figure
that
westbound is one
an
way.
interchange of itself.
So that
Um,
way it's not quite as bad as the New York
Or-
Thruway in
or
terms
is
of
that
ridiculously
to
long distances
Get
between
more
exits.
fuel sales
Well, in this
before going
particular
to New York?
case,
Something like
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
I can't remember the size.
Let me tell you something. If you've ever driven the Erie section of the Thruway from Buffalo out to Pennsylvania, have you ever done that yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so there's a section between, I forget what the hell, like, I think
Let
it's
me
like...
guess, it makes the Catskills look good.
Cats enjoy killing things, yes.
I think it's like,
COVID.
I think it's like from Westfield to Fredonia, there's like a stretch of like 20 miles or so.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the longest stretch between interchanges on the Thruway. Let me tell you something. You will wish that you were like drowning in Lake Erie if you're driving that. Like, it is like the least interesting section of the Thruway by far.
The most interesting is the one through
I
the Native
didn't-
American area where they won't let them repave it.
Which is the
know they
immediately
resolved that.
preceding area. Yeah.
I heard they repaved it, yeah.
They did
they
repave
did.
it. They
Yeah.
did repave that, yeah. That's right.
I didn't think it was that horrible. I found the Syracuse to maybe Utica area to be far more boring.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that.
Syracuse to Utica. Yeah, I can see that.
You're stuck in the middle of nowhere. At least along the lake,
However, I will
Largely
say
it's-
that the interchanges do come within a significantly shorter distance than they do in
but
other
they're
parts of
boring
the system.
interchanges, except for
I mean, that
except for
all-
790 at Button Copy. That was the only.
I mean, the only interchange types on the Thruway are trumpets. Like, what are you talking about?
Not true.
Like, like,
Not true.
yeah.
No, we utilized one a couple of weeks ago.
Excuse you?
We utilized one a couple of weeks ago.
Who's we? Like, who are you
Steve
talking
and I.
You want to date together? Or like,
No, we
what's going
utilized
on?
it going to Doug's.
Wait, this is more than a couple weeks ago.
That was a few weeks ago.
That was like a month ago, dude.
No, it's well
Which is a
way
few
more
weeks
than a
ago.
month ago.
Which is a few weeks ago. That's
Oh yeah, I don't even remember this. It's been a long time.
Yeah, dude, that's all like old news at this point.
I mean, they're right in, right out, so not a trumpet.
Yeah.
It's 20.
The 20. Yeah, exactly.
COVID.
Also, the throughway counts all the way down to the Yonkers-Bronx line, so all of those interchanges are not trumpets either.
Good point.
No.
At least one of them is, though.
Yeah, but most of them are not. So
Here's
Then
one of those
there's
Blu-ray
the
pictures
New
I was
England
talking
Thruway,
about.
there's
yes.
B3.
Yeah, right.
tolled throughway interchanges
Oh, okay.
are relatively few, but untolled there are many.
Yeah.
All right, so we've passed the relatively recently added Jim Thorpe interchange. The next interchange is Pocono, coming up in a few miles, and that'll be our next interstate highway junction. of
Right.
the evening.
Well, which passed through Pennsylvania 9.
But let's not get too technical here. But yes, you are correct.
Pocono, no says ow.
And then,
You have to go through a traffic light at PA 940 to get onto E.
yeah, I'm sorry, you're right,
476
940, not 915, excuse me.
You go straight though, or if you're like
Right.
you turn right, then you turn and make another right
Why?
to avoid the red light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you're at the front of the queue, you can do that.
No,
and,
you're
it
using the shoulder.
and it may or may not save you any time, but...
Negligible amount of time.
Yeah.
No,
So-
the one time I made that connection, I went to Wawa to get gas, so I didn't...
Okay, well there you go.
Shenanigans. But
We're extremely angry that you purchased gas in Pennsylvania, but okay.
I needed gas.
For a while,
From it.
Pennsylvania actually got cheap.
For a while.
It's with
Yeah.
COVID, so many different things got into play, and then with Ukraine, Russia, that gas prices in every state are hard to compare now. All I know is my state suddenly became one of the cheapest, which I'll take.
Well, we got that title back.
Yeah.
We had that title for a very long time.
And then lost it with the gas tax, and then got it back as
Right.
Western states went to double our prices. So
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, what are they paying for
And
gas
I-
right now in California?
And I'm
No,
Over
you're not allowed to
6.
use it.
yeah,
And
like,
I'm
geez.
very thrilled to say
So
that
it's
I
not
paid the
electric.
least
Come on.
amount yesterday that since I paid since probably February. So
it went down for you? It's been going up lately.
Yeah.
not what I paid.
I just found a...
There you go, another bridge color for you.
Oh, I missed that
What
one.
did you find?
No, it was concrete beams, so it was concrete
Oh,
color.
I had
I
seen
had-
concrete previously. I just
Okay.
didn't
I
comment
had
because
30
concrete
cent
and
gallon
steel.
kickbacks from Shell.
Oh,
So, but still, it counts.
with the kickbacks. Okay.
So I would like to mention
It was
quickly we are passing
What?
the interchange with I-80 which
30 cents.
is, I suppose, a miniature breezewood because there is a traffic light involved. However, in order for you to access I-80 from here, you would simply go straight through the traffic light instead of turning or whatever. Like all the ramps from I-80 and the Northeast Extension come to a single traffic light, and then you can just travel straight through the light in order to get to I-80 or vice versa. Yeah, are you guys good over here? Like, what are we doing?
No, we're learning.
Yeah, really?
We're
There's-
learning
there's-
about Highway 9 in Pennsylvania.
There are
yeah.
some state
Right.
secrets being quietly shared. Don't mind us.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Yeah.
Are you going
Okay.
70 miles an hour?
I'm teaching a Jew how to be more of a Jew, okay? It's,
Well, that's
Oi.
that's very important. I know. Next interchange is in
Wyoming.
12 miles, 11 miles, something like that.
We're heading to
Wilkes-Barre.
Wyoming. So that means we must have gone on 80 at some point. and gone
Well, we
10,000
just
miles.
well, you know what? If you were paying attention to the video and not explaining to this dipshit whatever the hell you were explaining, like you would have seen the I-80
he was
interchange.
getting angry because I
But-
saved more money than he did. He was-
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not paying attention, so
Yeah, because it's a boring road.
you know.
The boring is all behind us,
Look
okay?
at, this, look at this beautiful scenery right here.
You know what?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why I keep inviting this guy onto my shows. It's just
This is typical PTC.
it's just typical Steve. PTC sucks.
No, not BC, Pennsylvania.
Yes, as was commented before while we were muted so no one heard it, it's always the New Jerseyans causing trouble.
Yeah,
What
because
they do.
people fortunately missed the first 5 minutes. So
Anthony, I've said this before. We are shoehorned between New York City and Philadelphia. We have every right in the world to be assholes.
We're raised that way.
Yeah.
I didn't say you had no right to be. I'm just stating facts.
Right,
Yeah.
we're proud of that.
Yeah, I got pulled over in Oregon a couple weeks ago for driving like a New Jerseyan. I told him I'm sorry, I was driving like a New Jerseyan. And he said, we don't do that here. And I said, okay. And he said, okay, here you go, bye.
And then he said, get out of my state and never come back.
No, but he did not write a ticket because I acknowledged that I was driving like a New Jerseyan. He
Interesting.
actually said that to me.
Should have been familiar. You got someone to pump your gas for you.
He actually...
He has such a big ticket.
No, this is actually legitimately true. He literally let me go because I said I was in New Jersey and I acknowledged it. So that's
It's also been known to get you out of getting stopped for jaywalking in Los Angeles if you're from New York.
really. Oh my god.
Yeah,
like if you're on Skid Row or in general.
in general, yeah, no.
Because every intersection is all crosswalks in our area.
Yeah, but every
legally-
crosswalk
legally.
is filled with homeless people, so it doesn't matter.
LAPD does enforce laws against jaywalking. Like if you cross the street against a light and a cop sees you do it, you will get stopped in Los Angeles. But if they look at your ID and see that you're from New York, it's like, yeah, okay, you're from New York. We don't.
Oh, you're one of us, you know.
Yeah.
Like, all right. That isn't a local thing, but
Interesting.
okay. Yeah, that is interesting. Note to self: get a New York ID before visiting LA.
So I'm hearing, does New Jersey license count, or do I have to go? Get
I don't
New York
know.
one?
It should work.
I can't guarantee you.
It does not work in St. George, Utah.
Considering you don't even live in New York, yeah.
Okay.
If anybody in the audience tonight has any questions for us live,
Too
feel
bad.
free to send them in to us.
Okay.
You know, I'm trying to be a friendly person. You know, I'm trying to invite
That's
conversation.
what I don't
This is
understand
why
about
he
it.
has a
Yes, the
YouTube
New Jersey
channel
is not
and
being
you
friendly,
don't.
okay?
do.
See, you know, Erica
do.
knows what's up.
I know
You
what's up.
Like, yeah, like,
She just doesn't ever follow my YouTube channel.
yeah, because you haven't uploaded a video in what, like 9 years?
Herman Cain mile marker,
999.
69?
Hey,
What?
and there's 100
there you go.
for those that care about nice round numbers.
Yeah, it is election season, so we had to get something like that in here tonight. I would like to take a second. I teased this at the beginning of the show, and I haven't really followed up on it since then. But this was a trip that I used to take a lot as a kid, from Wilmington, Delaware, on up to Binghamton, New York. My grandma passed away in 1992 when I was about 4 years old. But for whatever reason, and you know, you can never really fully explain these things, but I have memories of taking this road as a 3 or 4 year old. And obviously, as you see in the
It has
video
not
tonight,
changed in the least.
But thank you, Bill. It has not changed very much over the years. It is
Part
still
of it
the
anyway.
same, 4-lane highway that it's always been. And one of the things that we would do was we would visit my grandma and we would visit my Aunt Fran, who was recently departed, as I mentioned at the top of the show. But this was this drive in particular, from like the Northeast Extension in general, falls into that nostalgic category for me as a result of that. And so I could think of, when I was thinking about shows that we could do tonight, there were a lot of different options that I thought of. But given recent events in my family's history and whatnot, I thought that I would pull this one out of dust the cobwebs off of it and say, you know what, let's do this one tonight. This is a good one to do, I think, because it kind of brings me back to my early childhood. I can't necessarily say that it was a drive that kind of gave birth to my road enthusiasm as a whole, because like I said, I was like 3 or 4 years old when we would do this drive. I didn't know what the hell I was looking at for the most part, but this is one that I always come back to, and it's people will say whatever they want. I think that this is a great drive. It's one of my favorite drives in the Northeast as a whole, in fact. Even though I understand that there are tolls involved, and I
No,
get
that's
that.
you. We know that about you by now.
But I don't really worry about that stuff. I know that some of you worry about it more than others, but
On that note, though, do you remember if you actually went the whole way or if you got off to switch to 81?
you know what? I do have memories of Clark Summit.
I
I remember. You know what?
Your parents actually went the whole way. I guess at the time it also probably would have not been quite as expensive.
I think that Clark Summit made an impression because of the high bridge and because of the loop ramp at the end. Those
Your
are the
parents
two
were
things.
waiting for it to be completed northward in its original format.
Well, they're still waiting.
It's like I-87.
We'll be waiting a long time.
Yeah.
But
Just for the viewers' benefit, yes, 476 was originally pre-Interstate era supposed to continue north on the path of 81. Once the Interstate era came into being, they funded that publicly, and so they just ended 476 abruptly. So now there's the chance that you could build direct ramps to head north to north instead of curving back south first. But that's why it's done that for decades, because the rest of it was built separately.
And if you look at the alignment, you can see that part of 81 actually uses the alignment that the Turnpike Northeast Extension was supposed to use.
Oh, yeah.
So they totally co-opted it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And maybe we'll touch on this again in a few minutes here when we get to the end of the highway. But yeah, this highway counts as nostalgia for me. And by the way, I should mention, I didn't mention this before when we were on the Blue Route, but back in the days pre-1992 when the Blue Route was completed, the only good way to get from Wilmington, Delaware to Allentown was to take US 202, the Concord Pike, which was...
You said good way.
I mean that. Yeah. Like 1990... Pre-1992?
I'll take county roads over that any day.
Yeah, well, you are insane. But
202
It'll take them 6 hours to get there.
Before the 202 Parkway was built,
The 202 Parkway would not be involved in this.
no, so I don't know why you're bringing that up.
Oh,
You'd
right.
only be taking
County-
202 from Wilmington to the Northeast Extension.
Wilmington to Westchester to Norristown.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask you, county routes in Delaware and Pennsylvania, what county routes?
Yeah, well,
They don't exist in either state.
my parents, when they were newly married, would come up from Wilmington on US 202, and they would take that up to Westchester and then over to Norristown and connect with the Northeast Extension there. And that was the trip that they would take. And the opening of the Blue Route in 1991 and 92 was a revelation for them. It very quickly turned sour when they realized, holy shit, traffic.
everyone else.
But there was like a 3 or 4 month window there where traffic was free flowing, and they were like, "Wow, this thing exists."
All of the freeway west of Norristown was done by 1990. The thing
202.
for 202. The thing that was not done in that area until like the mid 90s was the Exton bypass section of US 30.
That's different, yeah.
Which is
But
why they
that was
wouldn't.
not 202.
Yeah, which is why they wouldn't have gone that way. Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't have. They
Well,
wouldn't
they wouldn't
have
have-
gone anyway.
yeah,
Even
but,
if it existed,
like,
it's not
yeah.
their trajectory.
But yeah. But yeah, so this is kind of like
Back
a,
100 connected.
in a way, it's a time capsule for me back to the year 1991, 1992, when I would go up here pretty frequently, at least once a month.
You're old
Up
enough
to
to
this
remember
way?
that?
Well, I mean, I'm basing this on what I've been told, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I believe it.
Okay.
You know, my grandma was dying of lung cancer, and we made the trip regularly, and so this was something that we did, and the Northeast Extension was a big part of that. So
That's why you're starting the season with this road. It's very meaningful to you.
it is.
Okay.
There are there are reasons why I do certain episodes.
No, it's
there's
nice to know this.
There's the Binghamton show, there's this show,
Yeah.
there's Wilmington stuff, there's Philadelphia stuff. I'm giving you guys stuff that is important to me personally, and so that's why this show is here for you tonight.
Yeah, and note at this point how little traffic there is on this road.
Yeah, and
This far north, at least.
well, and to Anthony's point, it's going to die off even further.
Yeah.
In a few miles or so. But yeah, the Northeast Extension north of I-80 doesn't get a whole lot of traffic, period.
Well, up here, it's not that far away from I-81.
That is correct.
And that's the key thing here is that long distance traffic generally just switches to I-81 when they cross because, well, why not? Save yourself some money.
Unless you're there in a peak 20 minutes when it actually gets congested around Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah.
I've experienced it.
Being me, the toll road guy, I have done that detour a few times where I've said traffic is absolute BS around Wilkes-Barre and Scranton.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump on the Northeast Extension at Wyoming Valley and get off
450
at...
to 510, you want to avoid it.
Yeah, so I'll jump on the Northeast Extension at Wyoming Valley and get off at Clark Summit, and it'll still be faster than taking 81.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Totally
but
makes sense.
and that actually is my favorite part of
One.
the. That's my favorite part of the whole Northeast Extension is that stretch. I suppose in part there's probably a nostalgia part of it, but also because there ain't nobody on it. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody's taking that road.
My favorite part is rectangular, but that's all right.
Yeah, that too, but I mean, this stretch of highway is never not free flowing, and so that is the advantage that it has. 81 can be a disaster at times, but this is always free flowing no matter
Toll
what.
Plaza, half a mile.
This is the north end of the ticket system.
Right.
And then there's going to be, I think it's one or two barrier tolls.
There are two.
Right.
Yeah, so this is the north end of the ticket system. Beyond this is Wyoming Valley. And then you have barrier tolls prior to each interchange in succession.
This would be very nice to have Express Easy Pass.
Yeah, and this is
Does
right.
anyone know if this is intended to stay like this?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Okay.
Even cashless.
Eventually it'll go. Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, no. Well, the other thing here too, right? Is it's an interesting thing they did where they ended the ticketed system here, even though there's no free moves past here because there is a mainline plaza between each pair of interchanges. The Clark Summit interchange certainly was built, with the idea that it would someday be a double trumpet, so the provision for the plaza would be there. The Kaiser Avenue interchange, not so much, but it's just,
that may have been intended to just be closed.
Well, I think the Kaiser Avenue interchange was added later, actually.
Yes, it was actually. Yeah.
I will note that part of the issue here is it actually costs a decent amount of money to remove a toll plaza and make your main line straight again.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to just say we're going cashless. It's another thing to remove toll plaza. It may seem like, it's just a quick demolition. It actually costs quite a bit more because there's a lot of substructure associated with that, a lot of stuff underground that needs to get demolished and replaced.
You have to rebuild.
There's
the road.
a lot more work than what meets the eye.
Right. So I've learned this, that there's a reason that things take years to go between cashless and actually doing the full free movement.
And if it's really free flowing like that, there's probably not they could spend the money elsewhere and get all
Yeah.
the bang for their buck.
Yeah, there's little motivation to them for this one versus some other ones.
Yeah.
It'll eventually get done. All of it will get done, but this is going to be low on their list.
There's just rungs on the ladder of priority.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Main line is going to be over Northeast Extension pretty much every
Yeah.
Plaza.
Right.
So here's your next interstate highway junction at 81.
Which again is also not direct, but this is
No,
also
that's
where
true.
where anyone who doesn't feel like continuing to pay tolls is just going to get off here.
And I have a feeling this is not the last non-direct interstate connection we're going to pass through.
Well,
Just a little teaser.
It's almost like
Well-
we've been here before.
It's like we know what we're talking about.
You know,
Not really.
you're onto something there, I think. Next interchange is at Keyser Avenue, which is in 7 miles according to the sign. I'm going to
So
assume
Clark
that's
Summit
correct.
is in 16, so it should take us
do
approximately
we
14
do
and
we
a half
know
minutes.
if Keyser is actually the local pronunciation and not Kaiser?
It's
I
Keyser.
do
I'm thinking
not
the same
actually.
thing.
I'm pretty
No?
sure it's Keyser. Yeah.
I would not have thought that.
I have-
I thought it was Kaiser.
I have always called it Keyser.
I think
But-
I'm pretty sure it's Keyser, but I can't. We're going to have to ask our viewers if anyone is local to northeastern Pennsylvania. Please inform us.
Can we call Joe Biden? 'Cause he's from Scranton.
No, he's a Delaware person now.
Well, he's from Scranton originally.
yeah, but now, you know,
Well, I mean, he's known.
he's poisoned by Delaware pronunciations of things, which we
He,
all know.
he is known career-wise by Delaware, but he is born in. I think he's born in Scranton. He's certainly raised
Yeah,
there.
he knew enough to get out of that state. So
Yeah.
Call
Well,
Michael
Every
Scott.
time. Every time.
He'd know.
yeah, you know, he probably would. He has an expressway named for him now. Did you know that? The President Biden Expressway?
We're talking about different people.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
I said call Michael Scott.
I don't know what the hell
And I
you're
totally
talking
thought
about.
he was saying there was an expressway named for Michael Scott and got very concerned.
Yeah, I don't know what. I didn't know
Yeah,
you
I-
changed the subject. Really?
Michael Scott is the boss from the TV show The Office, which was set in Scranton.
Well, you know what? I'd be in favor of an expressway being named for him too. But
it is Keyser. As I look online here, it is Keyser.
Interesting.
Yep,
Okay.
I can confirm.
What sources are you using, and are they reputable?
Michael
the first
Scott.
few sources I've looked at have all said key with a double E in the pronunciation. So
Okay.
I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to subject our listeners to this, but
Aw.
it seems pretty certain.
More Halo bridges.
Yeah, a lot of the. I think that a lot of the bridges you see from here on out are the original 1950s construction.
That looked like a 1950s rail bridge.
Yeah, this upper end of the Northeast Extension has not changed much at all, if it has at all.
No, this is the last place they'd ever try to change anything.
Well,
Who's up here? Yeah.
remember what I said. Like traffic drops off even more
Yeah.
north of Wyoming Valley.
The only thing that they would look at here is the north to north, south to south connection with the 81, and that might bring some traffic back onto this section.
Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I think
I
also
can't
that
because
was
there's nothing modern. It's been a proposal on and off, but right now it's not an active proposal, so there's really nothing to say about
Is
it.
it not active anymore?
No, it's as active as 87 connecting from the Northway.
part of the deal with the Keyser Avenue interchange too. Then right is that was added later in order to try and get a little bit more local traffic on here because the road was really underutilized when it was just Wyoming Valley to Clark Summit.
Once they completed 81, the demand for this dropped off. Yeah. That is part of the issue is when they first built the Northeast Extension, 81 wasn't done yet. So this was the freeway, but then once it was done, free alternative. Yeah.
Right.
So
It actually goes downtown, so it better serves a lot of trips.
But yeah, the original plan for this to continue all the way north to New York has been resurrected at least twice in the history of this, from the 60s till now. But nothing, as I said, nothing active right now. The last plan was 2000s, maybe the early 2010s, and that got kicked off in favor of widening the main line to 3 lanes each way, for example. So and then the Easy Pass, all electronic tolling stuff. So they just had priorities that didn't line up with that option. It may come back again at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there's also been ideas kicked around about building direct ramps at Wyoming Valley and at Clark Summit, and actually rerouting I-81 this way, to encourage more traffic to use it. Which
The rest of it would be 281, I'm assuming.
that or whatever that would be something if done. I don't know about it though.
I don't think that would really change much about traffic patterns. So in this age, when you use digital routing to decide which way's the fastest,
This is also true.
yeah, very few people are going to change just because you decide 81 should follow this road.
Yeah, they were really pushing that hard for a little while, weren't they?
A little while.
Yeah.
Just as hard as the completion of this northward, it's probably related that you want to put 81 here. If you have direct ramps, then it makes more sense.
Yeah.
So, no. Yeah, 3 lanes each. Three lanes on a main line tells you exactly how much this is used. The capacity.
One of them
2 lanes.
closed.
Yeah. The capacity of one of these lanes is approximately 800 vehicles to 900 vehicles when it's open like that.
Per
hour?
per
Yes,
minute,
per hour. So 900 is the intended capacity, 1200 is the limit. So really, you're looking at no more than 1 lane of traffic if you only have 2 of those open. So that tells you exactly how utilized this is, that they only have 2 open and there's never a need to open all 3.
I mean, you can't say there's never a need. You have no idea.
No, there is never a need.
Okay. I was gonna say you have no idea if that was
I do.
closed for repairs or if that was
No,
typical.
Well,
There's
or
never
in
any.
the event of an incident on I-81 might send more traffic this way.
Yeah. Or they'll vary which ones are open or
Gotta let the
closed.
pavement rest. It is Pennsylvania.
Because that's, I think, the big thing is that, like, if you had like a nasty crash on I-81 that, like, caused all lanes to be closed somewhere, that would get a lot of traffic coming this way.
That
What
would
if
be an
somebody
issue.
crashed in the toll plaza there and they need the other one open? So
That would be
we
the
get around
opposite
it?
issue. Yeah, you can see exactly how utilized this roadway is right now. It's Dan and this guy.
Yeah.
We have just one more interchange to go.
9 miles.
That's it.
6 minutes if you're doing it right.
I remember when I clinched this road, stopping in Clark Summit to get sheets, and then seeing a Quebec truck going over the high bridge as I was pulling out.
There you go.
It was one of those like Burasa or something. So I was
Nice.
like, what is
Yeah.
that doing here? Okay.
Oh, there we go. Much better. Thank you. I didn't want to see that minivan anymore. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so a little bit of a disclosure about this video that we've been watching. Everything up until roughly this point
Well, look
was
at that.
filmed like a year and a half ago. This northern terminus that we're about to watch was filmed in July of 2022. And that was in order to incorporate some changes that have taken place recently at the northern terminus at the Clark Summit Interchange that we'll discuss momentarily here. But this was filmed recently, in the last few months, for your viewing pleasure, so please enjoy. The last interchange on the Northeast Extension is
For
the
now.
last one, for now, at Clark Summit, coming up in about 7 miles.
So then we'll be silent. Enjoy.
Do you know how?
Well, we are coming to the end of this video in the next 10 minutes or so. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to bring up that they haven't had the chance to bring up to this point? Has everybody gotten their piece in, or what do you think?
I will note that while people want to think of Clark Summit as being the commercial strip right off the interchange, there is actually, the community of Clark Summit is further up US 11, and it is actually a summit. You go up a hill going into it.
That is true. Yeah.
So.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, it's not just a name.
Yeah, I've driven that section of 11 a few times over the years, and yeah, it's not just a point on a map where interstate highways converge. There is actually a sizable town there.
90% of the town is commercial.
There is a Waffle House in Clark Summit.
Yes, sir.
You knew that, right? It is the closest
I've been
Waffle
there.
House to most of us. Well,
Yeah,
I've
but
been.
it's in Pennsylvania, so I'll still go to Delaware.
Well, I see. I've been to that Waffle House. I mean, you might have passed on it, but yeah. So it is the closest Waffle House establishment to most of us in this room. So there's
I've never
that.
been to a Waffle House.
See, you know what? You need to actually get on a plane and go somewhere useful for your website instead of just resorting to I'm going to be nice to you for a second here, but like new pictures of the Northern State Parkway. Yeah, we know that. Okay, like bring us somewhere new.
Well, now
bring
that
us to like future I-795 in Jacksonville, Florida.
Also, isn't there a Waffle House in like Bethlehem, PA? I think that one might be closer to some people.
Okay, so yeah, there's Waffle House in Clark Summit. There's one in Allentown. There's one in the one that I go to a lot that I like is the one in Middletown, Delaware.
I go to the one off 22 in PA.
Well, that's because you're
You
closer
go to
that
PA?
one. Yeah.
You
so-
just said you patronize ones in Delaware.
It's been 13 years since I've been to any Waffle House.
Yeah, see, I know this from Sheets, because while I don't care about Waffle House, I've been to one once and never need to repeat the experience.
Yes.
Yes, the closest Sheets is Clark Summit is a good one. There's also one in Nazareth, PA, right off of PA 33
Yes,
there.
because Anthony.
Those are the spots.
Anthony would know this because he's full of sheets.
Yes.
Yes. Turnpike ends 2 miles ahead.
Ends, not divides. Wrong turnpike.
Yes, that's true. However, this time I think they mean it.
Someone is hauling.
Yeah, so the Clark Summit interchange was meant to be just that. It was meant to be an interchange. It was meant to be an intermediate point of entry. And then the PTC or the predecessor of that ran out of funding, and so the Turnpike just ends here instead of ending at the
I
New
don't
York
know that
State
it's running
line.
out of funding as so much as it is that's where that section that they built ended, and they intended to keep going later with more construction, and they just never got to.
Because then the interstate system came around, and so they just said, "Oh, we'll build this for free."
Right, I mean,
with
right.
federal money.
The Turnpike main line was not built all at once either. There were multiple sections of construction there, and it had temporary ends. This was also supposed to be a temporary end.
Yep.
The PTC had intended for this to continue all the way up to New York State.
Yep.
And then in conjunction with New York State, they were going to build a section of north-south highway up to Syracuse to connect with the main line New York State Thruway. But as Anthony has alluded to already, the creation of the interstate system made that whole thing redundant. And so we're now stuck with
that you saw before at the beginning of this in that photo.
Yeah, so now we're stuck with I-81 instead of a Turnpike Thruway hybrid through Scranton and Binghamton.
I will
that
say
area.
you could probably use a parallel highway, but
This is the bridge that we saw in the questions slide at the beginning of the evening, the John Fitzgerald Bridge, which crosses over the valley here at Clark Summit.
The speed limit dropped to 35 before it, which is kind of excessive, but when you see what's coming up, they want to make sure you're prepared.
Yeah,
this
this-
35 on an interstate main line. Here you go.
Yeah, they mean business when they post this at 20 miles an hour.
So you can see this loop. Picture it going straight ahead instead of this loop. It would tie straight to 81.
I think there's actually still a highway stub there.
I don't think there ever was a
There's
stub. I
not
thought
a
it was just
stub,
clearing.
no,
there.
but it was just, you can tell the right of way goes that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and this alludes to the
Reduce speed. I think you've already reduced it enough.
Yeah, and here's the Clark Summit Plaza,
Now you're heading
which
south
was
on
built
northbound
originally as an interchange.
Right, and
plaza,
again,
not as
note that yes, this would have been on the exit ramp if the highway had been built further. So it was not the one between each interchange thing like we see now.
On the other hand, the amount of traffic using this is consistent with a small interchange.
That, you know what? That's probably true. Yeah,
That is true.
and I'm
But-
not
but
just
they
saying.
built- They did build a crossroad here so you could connect to
They even squeeze you
I-81.
down into one lane here.
I'm not just saying that because he said that. I think I'm saying that because that's accurate.
Oh, this is sorry. So we're going to take the ramp to I-81 here.
Yeah, cross.
See.
So we're not clinching 476 is what you're saying. I imagine it ends at the toll plaza.
I think it ends at the ramps.
No, it ends at US 11.
Oh, so it actually follows those ramps.
So, yeah, so there's a little bit of a debate here as far as where it actually ends, right? Like,
come
we're
up through
taking
those
the
ramps
ramps to
onto these.
81 here,
I've made
but
sure they've done it.
there's some documentation that suggests it ends at 81. There's some documentation that suggests it ends at US 11. There's also some documentation that suggests that it ends at the 20-mile-an-hour ramps.
Can you get
Right.
the call?
So there's that too. I don't.
The baseline file. See where the official baseline.
You know, we could ask Jeff Kitsko about that.
Oh, hey, we're on an interstate now.
The other thing you also have to realize is you also have to ask what does AASHTO think? I think so.
Yeah, I don't know that they've ever been actually consulted about this. So, there's
They're
that too.
slightly more the authority than what anyone in the state of Pennsylvania.
All right,
thinks,
let's take a trip on North 81 from here to Canada.
Yeah, how about we don't? How's that?
That's
so,
next video.
Yes.
Actually,
So
Next webinar.
yeah, but
That might be a little bit longer though.
that is the length of
What's
I-476 for you.
you're
folks.
showing everyone your PDH certificates folder.
I am showing them that.
So, would you like to talk about what it means to be a professional engineer?
It means you need those thingies.
Yeah.
It means I need a PDH certificates folder.
But what,
And I'm very proud of that.
do you want
But
to talk
wait,
about what it means
You're
in
in New
general?
York. That means you need to take tests to get those PDH folders.
They're very stupid tests, I've discovered.
I've had to make them. They're very stupid tests.
Yeah.
that means
They
so
give
do
you the answers
Yeah,
so you can always
it's-
cross out what you did. But
I
do you want to talk about what it means to you at all, or
mean, I'm good. I mean,
Would you like to, Steve?
would you
I would like to, but it's not my presentation, so I'll withhold it down.
would you like to talk about what it means to you to be a professional engineer?
Well, in our industry, it's pretty much required if you're going to be on the private side of things as a designer.
I thought
You're
I
not.
thought it was going to be like this whole sentimental thing.
I thought he was going to say, well, it's a requirement to be on this show, that I had to be a professional engineer.
I mean, I will say, I didn't get invited here until I had my PE, and then all of a sudden I was
See?
invited.
Yeah.
I had asked for years to be on a Wiz webinar sometime, but it was only after I got my PE that I was granted access to the live show.
I can say I was a PE for the first show, but on the other hand,
Yeah, you were actually. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, it's been a
Yep.
while.
And I honestly
So-
don't even remember when my first show was. I think I was a PE before my first
I
show.
think you were too.
I think I
actually.
was.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, it's okay.
But Dan, you weren't until
No, I was.
you were PE before your first show.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the first group show, anyway.
Well, before COVID,
First one
I
of
know.
these. Yeah.
Before COVID, I know. So if that's what we're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they happened to line up, but yeah. No, that's true. Any last closing thoughts from you guys? Did we hit on everything that we wanted to hit on, or do you guys have any final thoughts or closing statements or whatever? Yes, sir.
Pennsylvania sucks.
But, that's not really a closing thought. Like we
That
already
is my
knew
closing
that.
thought.
But we already knew that. Like there's no
Go
need
visit
to-
the other 49 states and
And
districts.
just another note on the bridge colors. When you commented on the concrete bridge, the Florida Turnpike actually paints their concrete bridges green to match the steel bridges. You get continuity up that
Excuse you,
turnpike.
Florida's Turnpike.
See, you know
Is
what?
that not what I said?
No,
I thought
not
that's what she said. It's
She,
just-
she said the Florida Turnpike, which is what most people want to
Oh,
call it.
yes,
but it's not
I may-
technically what it is called.
I may have screwed that up.
Well, you know what? She came with her A game tonight, and I,
I did. I
appreciate
came with
that.
my A game.
Yeah, she did come prepared for tonight's show,
I took notes.
which is more than this guy could say.
False.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. Hope to do more of these in the future. We got a lot more of these lined up for you guys in the coming weeks and months. We have to have a lot more shows like this with a diverse panel. Hopefully, we'll have some new faces as well.
I don't know. I hope for that at all.
I am lining some stuff up for the coming months, and we'll see what we can do.
Now I'm
So,
excited.
absolutely, you should be. You know, it's good to get new faces involved and all that stuff.
Those
so.
are nice faces.
Yeah, my face is nice.
It is. It is.
It is. Thank you. So anyway, until then, we're going to sign off from here. Thank you very much for joining us. You've been watching another fantastic presentation from the Roadway Wiz YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and we hope to catch you on our next live presentation, which will happen, I'm sure, sooner rather than later. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, everybody.
Yep.
Ooh.